should be up any minute now with our fancy new
We'll
avatars.
leave. We'll leave.
Yes.
I'll get to see it once I get the notif. Once it pops through that we have indeed started the stream. Have indeed. It's not shown up yet, but I'm waiting.
I am seeing we're live for a whole 20 seconds.
A whole 20 seconds? Well, YouTube's being very... yep, there we go. There we go. There we go. There we go. We're live. We're live.
Yeah.
Just YouTube default so I can have the video up, have the chat in a way that I can actually, see what the fuck's going on. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Critical Critique Pause on Point, or at least a live stream edition of Critical Critique Pause on Point, because we're trying new things on the Critical Critique channel. We're always experimenting.
Yeah.
Ellie's spending 2 hours trying to fucking set shit up. We could have been recording already, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, because you mess up with audio settings, everything is fine, everything is good, and then suddenly, oh no, OBS isn't picking up Naretsu at all.
Everything breaks. Everything breaks. It's just, yeah. So, I want to kind of get straight into it because this is like a 20-minute fucking video. So, oh shit, I swore in the first 5 minutes, so we're probably going to get demonetized, don't
well,
we're monetized anyway.
Indeed, yeah.
Not like we're monetized anyway, but yeah, so dubs versus subs. The eternal war has been raging since the dawn of time, and my radar picked up this video on my X, on my Twitter, my X.
Never say X.
On my X account.
Never say that.
I picked up on this one. It came across my feed mostly because of the title. Because the title is anime dubs aren't cringe, anime is. And the clickbaitiness of the title was rustling some people's jimmies, Ellie. It was
you don't say.
It was rustling a couple of jimmies on the old Twitters. So I watched this video. So I think we've both pre-watched it. Well, you skipped around, I think. You
yeah, when it was during you sent it during work, so I skimmed through it at work.
So I watched the whole thing mostly because if it's a 20-minute video, I want to make sure we actually have something to talk about, and I think we've got some things to talk about. So I guess without any further delays, let's get right into it.
Yeah.
In life, there exist two things that are absolute: the McDonald's ice cream machine not working, and anime fans arguing over the right way to watch anime, English dubbed, or the original Japanese voices with subtitles. It's a war that actually dates back all the way to ancient Greece. In fact, famous philosopher Socrates went on record to say, "I watch my anime dubbed. If I wanted to read, then I'd pick up a fucking manga." It didn't take long for word to spread through the city of Athens, and the court sentenced Socrates to death for his wrong opinions, forcing him to ingest poison and giving him ample time to reflect on his heinous crimes against humanity. If you can pause real quickly.
Man, where's Full when we need him?
I do appreciate that he was convicted of having trash taste.
Yeah, it was a little bit conflicted. Yeah. This whole first part is a bit of a gag, and I mean, humor is subjective, Ellie. I personally, this doesn't do anything for me, really.
Nah,
but,
it feels like a bit padding. It feels like a bit padding.
A little bit, yeah. It doesn't do anything for me. I mean, look, like I said, humor's subjective. Maybe some people find this kind of thing funny. Maybe I'm just getting old. I don't know. But yeah,
Nah,
let's blitz through it because this is actually kind of long. I feel like this gag kind of drags a little bit for his intro, so let's get through it.
Humanity. More battles would be fought over the coming years. The blood of dub and sub enjoyers alike would paint the streets of Reddit threads and Twitter reply sections. As anime grew increasingly popular, the feud grew to be more civil, but it still continues to this day. Now it's only discussed by the most refined and sophisticated individuals. Huh? What do I think about it? Have a seat. Let's talk. For the people who started watching anime in the early 2000s, there weren't many options.
Alright, so that was his opener, right? So that
Yeah.
was his opener. I agree with the point that it's like I mentioned at the beginning. It's the eternal war, right? The eternal war back in the day, and he's about to get into kind of like the personal history, right, of a lot of watchers, which does resonate with me a little bit, but we can get into that when we get to that. But the sort of I do remember back in the day there was the heated debates about the subject. So
Well,
oh look, we have someone in the chat. 6650 is in the chat.
yeah, our most loyal viewer ever.
Our most loyal viewer, yeah. But yeah. So, what about you? Have you ever partaken in the dub v sub wars?
Not really as in the wars itself. More like subs were just qualitative better all the time. So
well, let's go through the history then. Don't you
want to know my history?
Well, let's let him do, because
Right.
he's about to talk about both his history and the history for many anime fans. So let's hear what he's got to say, and then we can come back to it.
For you to get your fix. Like most kids my age, I was introduced to anime through Toonami, which obviously aired with English dubbing. To youngins back then, anime were just cartoons. This thing is a jelly donut. People go to the Shadow Realm when they die, and Sonic is proud to be an American.
By the dawn's early light.
The only anime we had access to in the States were the ones that Western companies licensed and dubbed for American television. If you wanted to watch something that wasn't passed through that filter, then you had to get your hands dirty. Now, I never dabbled in torrenting. I was too scared to download a virus onto the dusty-ass family computer, but I never...
Weak!
I'm feeling he might be like 5 years younger.
I don't know if that much. I mean, Toonami, because Toonami had a when was Toonami? Because Toonami had a revival like within the last.
Nah, he's talking about the classic days.
He is, yeah. So that means he has to be at least around our age. I would assume he's got to be around that.
Well, I guess you are on the other side of the world, and I'm on the other side of the ocean. So time and exposure when things were where,
which is kind of what I want to talk about, because the whole Toonami thing, right, is such a big deal for the Americans, right?
Yeah.
Like Toonami was such a massive thing, but I feel like a lot of Americans fail to grasp that not everyone had Toonami. Because I don't remember there being a Toonami per se down here. I just remember, there's these funny cartoons on the TV, and it was just on normal channels every now and then. Right? It would be like you just have, oh look, it's like One Piece after school or something, or like another like One Piece would stop and then something else would take its place, right?
So
you'd have
there were a
like
few channels, and there was something like Dragon Ball Z on Cartoon Network, which I suspect was just straight from the American TV. And there was like something Cowboy Bebop on MTV at odd hours. And there was this channel that had Sailor Moon at times. But
see, so down here it was like you didn't have like the only way you would get like Pacific channels for cartoons or something was if you paid for Sky TV, which was satellite TV. So you'd only get like Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon and those channels, right? You would only get that if you had Sky, and Sky costed money. So poor boy Naretsu
I do have to
isn't
say
going to
that-
have Sky TV, right?
I do have to say that I know now that it was Sailor Moon, but at the time it was just brief 30 seconds.
See, it's interesting because even though I didn't have things like Bebop or whatever, I did have card captors with card captors, right? Which is really weird, right? That's kind of where the disconnect comes, because you'd have things come on New Zealand television that were like really like fucking legit anime, but it's why I kind of resonate with his point that he just made, where he's like, it wasn't anime, right? Because we didn't have a concept of what anime was. It was just all cartoons, right?
Well,
it's the stuff that you watch when you get home from school, right? It's like you didn't have this inherent, like, I think you would have an intuitive idea that, oh, this is different than the stuff that's like Western, right? Like there would be like because I'm talking about when you're like a kid, right? You would have like an intuitive idea that something is different, but you wouldn't be able to like compartmentalize why, right? Until you eventually found out, right? That, oh, these are cartoons from different country with which they do different things in different country, right? So it's interesting, and I think that for a lot for a lot of people, that's how they start. So you would have started with your dubs, right? Because obviously all of that would have been dubbed, right? And of course we would most likely be getting, I'm pretty sure we would be getting the American versions down here. Probably.
I think so.
I think it would probably be. I think it would probably be the same for most countries, unless it's like hyper Pacific. Like I know the French did some localization back in the day, I think.
Yeah, they also have a big home culture of the cartoons in general.
Yeah, and then there's South America as well. Was quite big on it. So the general idea is most people would, of course, be regardless of if it was Toonami or not specifically, you would be starting with some form of Western localized anime that was probably dubbed, right?
Well, for me it would still be English, but anyway.
Of course, well, that's what I mean by American localized anime, because of course
that's her.
So now he's going to get into kind of switching from watching stuff on TV, right? Because it's kind of weird, because we grew up in an interesting time where we got to kind of live through the transitional period of, television into the internet.
Yeah.
Right? Which is really interesting to think about as a topic in its own right. Like, you could probably do a whole cast just on that, because the idea of you started... it would be different for different people, because I remember back in the day, we only had dial-up, right? Like you had to
with the
bring
noises
up the window. Yeah, you had to bring right. You had to do that, and you couldn't use the phone while you were on the internet, so your mum would get pissed off. Your mum would get pissed at you all the time, right? So, and it was slow as shit, right? So. Until you got broadband, which obviously costed money, right? Because broadband costed money, right? It's very interesting, like that transitional period in I think a lot of people's youths, right? Where they kind of like went, oh, I can watch stuff online now, and I think he's about to get into that, so I'll let him get into that. He might not have gotten into torrenting, but he did get into the piracy another way.
The way that I realized when something was an anime, or the distinction only came when my parents showed me the Ghibli movies,
Hmm.
and then I had the classification, a label to put on the other stuff as well.
I don't know if I can recall when I had that. I just remember. I remember watching Card Captors and being like, "Wait," because when I was young, right? I had this really weird kind of like, okay, this is gonna be really funny, right? So, especially with like modern day politics, right? I had this like, okay, this is for boys, this is for girls, right?
Channels were like that.
Because yeah, well not necessarily like the channels, right? But it was like you'd have there's the Barbies and then there's the Action Man, right?
Yeah.
And you'd have that split, right? So you'd have Sailor Moon is obviously for girls because it's girly, right? And then you'd have like other stuff that would pop up now and then that would be for guys. But then like Card Captors shows up, right? And that kind of like was fucking mind blowing for like
This is way too cool.
This is way too cool to be for girls, right? like because like man, there's these fucking like spirits and shit, and she does like the magical girl transformation, and it's animated super good, like holy shit. So I can't even remember how. Like we're talking like I would have been like 5 or something, right? Like maybe even like younger. Like I was a wee lad. I was a wee lad. That's actually another thing. And I know we've been paused for quite a while on this, but this is some interesting stuff, right? Because it's very like history stuff. New Zealand is very and I've noticed this, right? We got things really late, right?
Oh really?
So I was. Yeah, so because I was watching like because like what year did Card Captors actually come out? Right, it would have been like fucking
late 1990s.
Yeah, like the 1990s. That didn't show up on TV down here until at least the like early 2000s to like 2005, 2006, right? Like because I was in like because we have primary school down here, which is because it goes like kindergarten, primary school, high school, or like it was like there is like a intermediate school in between that. You don't have to do that, all right? You can go straight from primary to last year primary into high school. So like I was watching Card Captors early primary school, which is like would have been like because I think I started primary school in 2001. I recall. I'm pretty sure 2001 was when I started primary school. So it would have been like somewhere after 2001 is when Card Captors like was something that I watched, right? So I have this really interesting kind of perspective where I'm watching shit from like the 90s in like the early 2000s because of how delayed things took to get down here, or at least that's how like or they were rerunning stuff, right? Because it's cheaper to just rerun stuff that you've already bought the rights for.
Syndication, something
less cost in the syndication, right? So that kind of gives like a really interesting perspective, I think, because to me it's like no, that stuff was new. Because I was, like I didn't have any concept of like, oh, I'm watching like older anime, right, at the time, right? Yeah. So it's So I wanted to kind of get into that because that's
I just wanted to mention
stuff.
that I like to watch Sabrina the Witch and I like to watch Charmed.
I actually remember Sabrina the Witch too.
That's a fun show.
It was a fun show. The little talking cat was great. I always love the talking cat. But anyway, yeah. So let's transition to talking about piracy because that's gonna be fun. So let's get into it.
We have a
had to,
pirate on
because in
screen.
the late 2000s, anime streaming services started to pop up. Just take your pick of countless different, definitely not illegal websites, and immediately gain access to hundreds or even thousands of new anime.
Oh, he's
Oh,
skipping
that one,
the shows
that one,
that you
no,
never
no,
would
no,
have seen
stop,
otherwise.
go
So-
back. That one right there. Which one was it? You gotta go back. I want to go back. Hang on.
And immediately gain access to hundreds or
that's
even
Kiss.
thousands of new
Ah, there it is.
Anime Freak.
That's
No,
the
Noretsu.
one.
This is skipping a step. This is I watched Naruto on YouTube in 3 parts.
Oh yeah.
Those days.
See, I kind of skipped that step. I did a little bit of that, but I went like right into because so this is great. I'm actually loving this video because I get to like talk about personal history, right? Because like so we went from primary school, right, and now we're getting into high school because I was like on this site, exactly this one, because I remember the layout, right? Because the layout hasn't changed in like 20 billion years, right? Because you'd have like the giant anime list on the side, right? You see it on there where you got like dot hack, like you had that, and you'd have to like scroll down the list
Nah, but
to
the thing
find
is,
what you want.
the thing is though, by the time Excel World came out, I was into torrents, way into torrents
Right.
by then.
Yeah, I transitioned into torrents later on, but like early, this was like probably, this is like mid high school. This would have been before the earthquakes, right? So before I had to
Oh
move, right?
yeah.
So-
I was
so this was-
torrenting way before that.
Yeah, I was late. I was kind of late to the torrenting game, but man, this site, man, this fucking site.
Nah,
I think I watched Evangelion, I think, through this site. I recall that was one of the ones I watched. I think I also watched Fullmetal Alchemist and Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood through this site as well.
Nah, I read manga on one manga, and I watched Naruto and Bleach on YouTube, and
Yeah.
I then skipped right to torrents.
Yeah, no, I went for this. I went with this one. So seeing this website brings back good memories.
anime. This introduced me to shows that I never would have seen otherwise. Shows that never aired outside of Japan and thus had no English dub. For major series like Naruto and One Piece, I continued to watch them in English on TV until I noticed a discrepancy. Why is the newest episode of Naruto on Toonami 50 episodes behind this random website? And then I realized it. Anime comes from Japan. Dubbing takes time. If I just watch it in Japanese, I unlock dozens of new episodes and can actually catch up with the show. From that point on, I ditched the TV, put on my straw hat, and became a full-time pirate. Toonami was doing its thing, but the fan subbers were putting up LeBron numbers. The sheer breadth of content that became available to you by watching subbed was simply outmatched, so I started watching all my anime in Japanese. And that's the story for a lot of anime fans. Started out as dub watchers, but jumped to subbed so they can further immerse themselves in the medium. This is less so the case for people who got into anime more recently. With the international success of shows like Attack on Titan and My Hero Academia, there came a much greater precedent to make anime.
It was way earlier than that.
Yeah.
Attack on Titan. Yeah, okay, I could believe that. I don't think My Hero Academia
Nah,
necessarily
it's two
was a big one.
reasons.
That's
Unless
too
you-
recent. Like,
unless you
because
talk
I
about new
remember because
waves.
I was in I was going to Polytech at the time of Attack on Titan, and everyone was talking like normies I was talking to at Polytech were trying to talk to me about Attack on Titan, even though I didn't watch it. You know what I mean? So like that's that Attack on Titan maybe. That like first season Attack on Titan, that was like 2015 probably, like somewhere around there. 2015,
it's been a
2016.
while.
It would have been 2015, 2016. That was like, yeah. But I mean, I agree with his overall like assessment though, right? His overall assessment is pretty accurate, I would say, except for like maybe here with My Hero Academia because that's way too recent. And then again, I guess if he's talking about the zoomies, yeah, I was gonna say 650 beat me to it in the chat. He's like, yeah, at least he's talking about the zoomies. which he might be, right? But the thing is like, I feel like the Zoomies probably already, like, they don't need like this is the hot animator, because they've already got all of the framework built for them.
Yeah,
that
the
we
soft
didn't
power
have,
of Japan has conquered the minds of the young.
Right? So yeah, I think that his assessment is all right. And it is interesting. The idea of, because I also had that kind of moment of like, I could wait a week for the show to come out on like Crunchyroll for free or whatever, or I could just torrent. So because I switched over to subs maybe a little bit earlier than most, so it's
Nah,
it's
the thing,
stuff.
I always watched subbed. I never watched dubbed, really. The Ghibli movies that really introduced me to what anime were in Japanese. So everything else anime was in Japanese. Besides, the TV, which I was forced to because that was the TV.
You're forced to watch it dubbed, yeah.
But also, I never. You can't follow a series really on TV because it skipped seasons.
It's a lot harder, yeah. It's a lot harder because you'll skip seasons, you'll have repeat episodes, you'll have because they want to try and drag out the amount of shit that they've got, and then you have to you'd either have like, unless it's like every day, right, an everyday show, you'd have to wait a week sometimes.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where I think everyone just kind of has like a path of least resistance where they sort of gravitate towards whatever is going to get them the content that they want in the most fastest time possible, which is, I'm pretty sure, what happened. So anyway, let's continue.
More easily accessible outside of Japan. Legit streaming services like Funimation, Verve, and Crunchyroll.
Isn't Verve like just Crunchyroll and Funimation together?
Well, the thing is,
isn't Verve like a mixture? Because I know I think High Dive is another one, right? Because High Dive is like Sentai Filmworks or something. So it's like,
well, the thing that I wanted to focus on was that Crunchyroll was totally a piracy site.
Oh yeah, totally, yeah. Shouldn't let them forget
Never
that.
forget.
Never forget that. And Funimation doesn't actually exist anymore.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Which is kind of what I mean. I get why he's bringing it up, because he's talking about like at that time, he's probably talking because Funimation is still technically exists. It's just folded into Crunchyroll, so it's like, I get why he's talking about it, but Verb is just an interesting one, because I thought Verb was just like a conglomerate site where it was like, if you paid for a Verb subscription, you got access to Crunchyroll and High Dive.
I have no idea. Besides that,
that's what I remember, but
it might be just also an American thing, because I'm pretty sure I can't get a Verb subscription.
I don't know about it either. I wouldn't pay for it either if I could.
I don't think I can.
Because I'm not going to give these people money. Fuck them. But I don't think he's wrong though, right? Because I feel like there has been the rise of quote unquote legitimate streaming sites and subscription sites, right? And that's definitely given people more of a ability to access the animes, right? So I don't think he's necessarily wrong, but I just wanted to kind of comment about how I thought it was weird that Verb was in there, because I don't remember Verb being like its own platform.
I never heard of it in the first place.
I'm actually shocked he didn't have like Amazon, because doesn't Amazon have like their own streaming? Because that's where Made in Abyss was.
I've heard of Hulu having anime stuff.
Yeah. I thought because Amazon hosted Made in Abyss, didn't they? It was like Amazon streaming.
I don't know. I know that Disney had Heavenly Delusions or something.
Oh yeah, Disney also did the new Black Rock Shooter anime that I haven't gotten around. So yeah. So we could have a whole discussion about the issues with subscription.
Well, the
streaming
thing is,
and how
I
it's
don't
a
know
pain in
anything
the
about
ass.
the subscriptions, so I can't really comment.
Well,
on
I'm
it.
talking more about like the issues of like
Oh,
having to pay for like all of these subscription services if you want to watch all of the animes, and how it encourages piracy and all this other shit. So it's like that's like an entirely like different discussion. that we
yeah,
could have.
the big companies being monopolies and at the same time breaking up everything to the point of uselessness.
Yeah. So let's see where he's gonna go.
Were launched. The website sucked, but they were
Yeah,
legit,
it did suck.
and more importantly, convenient. We got simulcasting with Japan. Almost every new anime had a dub. We even got an anime that aired here before it did in Japan. At this point, it was entirely practical to be a seasonal anime fan only watching dubs. Yet so many English speakers still stuck to reading subtitles. Why? The common belief seems to be that the Japanese voice actors are just better. Their casting and delivery is always on point. They perfectly capture the very essence of each character and put in significantly more emotion and effort in their performances than their English counterparts. I think that's a load of bullshit. Voice acting is a much more prestigious industry in Japan. They have dedicated schools for voice actors where they undergo rigorous training, and even then, jobs aren't guaranteed. The most successful VAs are celebrities in their own right, whose fame in Japan rivals those of some of Hollywood's finest. The bar for entry is much higher than over here, but Japan's high standard doesn't necessarily mean that America has low standards. You know what?
Well, well.
I mean, it's also just less people to pull from, less talent coming in.
Well, that's part of the thing, right? Because he's made the point that so Japan has built an entire industry around voice acting, right? They have schools specifically for voice acting. You go through like years of training. You do all of the shit, right? Like,
Yeah.
and then he's like, well, that doesn't necessarily mean that the Japanese are better. But I'm sitting here looking at like the absolute state of Western voice acting as a fucking like institution. And I'm like, what the fuck are you? How can you like say that? Right? Because compare it, right? Because you have dedicated voice acting schools. You have them being like treated as celebrities in their own right, versus a clique of people in like Texas at like one major recording studio that was Funimation before they merged, right? And it's like, come on. Like most VAs from like the West, don't they usually start out just being like amateur VAs, right? And
I'm not really sure.
They'll do stuff like they'll do stuff on like YouTube or whatever, and they'll try and break into the like the issue is, right? Because I'm fucking coming up with my ideas on the fly like I always do, right? You're comparing Japan, that has it as an institution, versus the West, which has it like a clique, right? I don't think it's comparable. I don't think it's comparable at all, because there's no like. I don't think there's any like voice acting schools in the West, right? I don't think there's a whole industry around it.
You have to do theater or just movie class general, and then
like drama class acting or something.
By the way, can you go back a second or ahead a second so it's not a black screen? Yeah, just something.
There you go. We'll have this fine gentleman on screen. It's. I don't know. I feel like, because I get his point, right? I think he does kind of have a point. It's like, just because Japan has this whole institution around it doesn't necessarily mean that the quality of the voice acting is quote unquote better, right? Because that's the claim. The claim that a lot of people make is, oh, the Japanese are better, they're better because the quality of the voice acting is better, even though they can't actually like tell because they don't fucking understand Japanese to begin. Right?
Yeah.
Right? So I get that. I get that, and I think that's worthy of criticism, right? As a point, because I don't actually think that point holds water either, right? However, I don't think his comparison helps his point, if that makes sense. I don't think him going, well, I mean, look at how institutionalized and professional the Japanese are, and then but because he doesn't actually bring up like the comparison to the West. If he had been like, oh, in the West they also have like pathways to voice acting and people go through it as a career and they do, like if he'd like actually made a comparison, I feel that would have helped his point more than just. It's like he's done one half of the example and not the other, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Although I might bring, I've built a new stream thing. And it's a little bit fancier,
Ooh.
so I might be able to do an example thingy.
Oh, we got fancy new tech. We got new tech on the show.
Yeah.
We're doing it live. New tech.
So, but
Oh, wow.
but I think the point comes later. But anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like it's annoying because I hate it when it's like I agree with someone, but I think that their method is wrong, right? Where it's like I kind of get where he's coming from, but I feel like he so far hasn't done a good job of articulating it. But let's see.
Retsu, to something completely different. I was bored at work, so I read a random paper related to Japan anime and stuff, and it was about monsters, witches, Medusa, the Gorons, and stuff. And
fun stuff, yeah.
It said basically, well, all these monsters were female and were kind of like, hey, don't give women have power. Look, they're witches and evil because they have power and whatnot. Look, they were beautiful. They were too beautiful, so we made them ugly because you can't be too beautiful. That would be bad. And
sorry, I'm reading the chat.
Yeah, me too. But now anime is like, hey, witches are cool. Medusa is cool. So the paper was
sexy woman power. Yeah,
sexy woman power. Woman power good. And the paper was basically, witches. Woman has power over men. Bad witch. Get rid of her. Burn her. Now manga, anime, witches good. Witches power. Woman power good. That's basically the article.
It's interesting. It is interesting how you have that kind of like dichotomy. How things
but the paper itself suddenly went a little bit too hard on Soul Eater, where Medusa is evil,
right.
And in the battle, the first battle with Stein, remember that?
Yeah.
He stitches Medusa to the floor in one.
Okay.
And that's symbolized. That was like patriarchy. You can't have a woman.
Fuck off.
There was, man, you had something good going over there.
Yeah, it's like oh, you have an interesting point of like take, because I mean this is going to go into a completely different fucking tangent.
I started it. Don't worry.
Yeah, you started because I've talked with some people in VC about how idea comes from the West, goes to Japan. Japan take idea, go, let's filter this through Japan lens, right?
And make it
the
cool.
example, the example that I was talking about was Zelda. In particular, because Short Fat Otaku had a really interesting video, and he had a section in the video where he talks about the moblins.
Yeah.
The little moblins, and he goes into how moblin, the name is like forest goblin, right? It's like that literal translation is like forest goblin, and he talks about how orcs from the West in like D&D, right? Early D&D, orcs are pigmen, right?
Yes,
They're
pigs.
pigmen, right? So D&D and Ultima and, you know, all of these Western fantasy things, right? And this is before the concept of an orc had been like fully formed in the West, right? So they were just pigmen. So they come over to Japan, right? And the Japanese look at these pigmen and they go, oh, these look like, I can't remember the name of it, but there's like a thing in Japanese folklore, which is like a pig. It's like a little pig person that has like a spear, right? And it's like a forest guardian or something. It's like some folklore thing. I can't remember the name of it because it's Japanese, right?
I just... does it work? Oh no, that's...
I'm not going to know until... The stream's on delay, so I'm not going to see it until until it just suddenly pops up if it does. But so basically, right, they took the idea of what an orc was from that early concept, right? And then it's kind of like you have like the branching pathways, right? Because obviously in the West, right, what an orc has kind of gone from pigman into sort of, you know, big, green, muscular, tusked, you know, guy, right? You know, it's kind of turned into like, you know, like World of Warcraft. Oh yeah, there he is. Yes. Yeah, there he is. Little. That wasn't the picture Dev used. He used like an actual like mythological picture, like an actual like drawing of it. But they have this concept in Japan of this folklore monster that is basically just a pig man with a spear, right?
Yeah,
and so they were like,
this is from Dragon Quest, by the way. That's why I picked it.
Yeah. Which kind of goes into this, right? So so you had the Western path, right? So the Western path went down the road of orcs becoming like World of Warcraft orcs, right?
Yes.
So most orcs, when you think of an orc, right, in a Western context, right, you're gonna probably immediately think of the World of Warcraft style orc now, right? Even D&D, like orcs are gonna be kind of like that, right?
Yeah, I mean, my first, I do D&D stuff, so my first.
Yeah. So
you're
not gonna think of an orc as a pigman now because they're not pigmen now,
no.
right? Basically, but in Japan, they stayed as pigmen, right? They didn't do that thing. They didn't go through the same lineage, right? They went a completely different direction. They kept the idea of them being pigmen because they could relate that to something that was familiar, right? And so eventually, orcs in Japan, when you see an orc in anime, a lot of the time the orcs in anime are pigmen. You know, I'm pretty sure like I think what was it? I think Overlord. I think the orcs were pigmen. I think when the orcs showed up at some points. I think they were pigmen in Overlord. I can't remember, but like a lot of the time, I think slime orcs were also pigmen. Yeah, so we can use that as an example.
Yeah, the orcs in...
Can you... Yeah, the orcs in your favorite anime of all time, Slime. the orcs in Slime, I'm pretty sure were pigmen, right?
Yeah.
And the same kind of concept... Oh, sorry, I'll let you.
Yeah, no, I'm just gathering Japanese orcs at the moment.
You're gathering resources, to put it on this. Yeah, there you go. There you go. So pretty much you have so the same thing happened with goblins, right? So that you had the goblins, right, show up, and they were like the Eastern, the fantasy style goblins, right? And then goblins have kind of like changed into like the little green men with the things, right? And then you had Zelda basically was like, okay, let's take this idea of the pigman, right? And we'll make them more goblin-like, and we'll call them like they're forest goblins, right? So they're going to be called moblins, right? Because it's a mixture of the two different words, right? Yeah, there you go. There you go. There's your pigman. Yeah, because the stream's delayed, so I'm picking up on things as you do them. But this is a very interesting thing, right? It's this cultural mixing, right? And this cultural sort of like divide that happens where you take ideas from one culture and put them into another culture, and you get like an output that's completely different. And that's what this paper sounds like it was kind of going into, right? Like you had witches and wizards, right, in mythology, or not witches and wizards, but like witches and like Medusa, and all these ideas of woman bad, woman get power bad,
Yeah.
if that's how you want to interpret it, because obviously that's interpreting it for a feminism lens, right, or whatever. A woman bad. And then you that goes over to Japan, and they don't see it like that. They don't see it through that lens because of that lens. They just see all they see is holy shit, Snake Lady, cool. Right? Holy shit, Medusa's cool. She's got like snakes for hair and shit. That's fucking dope. We're gonna do something with that, right? We're gonna take that and we're gonna do cool things with it, right? And we want to do our own cool thing, and that's how you get like Medusa and Soul Eater, right? And then it sounds like the paper just kind of goes off the fucking rails.
Yeah.
And kind of fucks it up. Because it's like, yeah, you had a point, but then you fucked it up. You know what I mean? And then to kind of end this tangent, because I've kind of rattled on a bit, the thing that actually sparked this was, what's his name? Hideki, is it Kamiya? Guy behind Bayonetta and stuff. He did an interview recently where he talked about localization and how he's really into this kind of thing of seeing how Japan idea is translated into American idea. And he was talking specifically about Ultraman, I think, and how the West kind of changed Ultraman, and how he actually thought like the Western versions of Ultraman were actually cool. Or something like that. And he related it to like Bayonetta, because he was talking about how when you look at the West and you think about like, oh, what's like, like strong character, he's like he thinks about like Kratos. So he looks at like Kratos and he goes, I don't, that's something like Kratos is something that to him is specifically a Western idea of strength, right?
Yeah.
And he thinks about when he thinks about, well, what's a Japanese idea of strength, right? And that's how he kind of came up with Bayonetta. Was he thought, I want to do a strong character, but I want it to be strong in a completely different way to something like Kratos. In a uniquely, I think the way that he put it was like, he wanted to do it in a uniquely Japanese way. Right, and that's kind of how I'm probably butchering it. You'd have to go find the article because it was very very interesting. I might be able to track it down because it was probably in a Discord server that has like not a lot of talking going on, so I might actually be able to find it, and I'll link it in the chat. Because it was a very interesting read. Oh, here we go. I've actually found it. Okay, this is why people like our show, because we go on these long ass fucking tangents that have nothing to fucking do with the video. So I'll copy the source of that, and I will pump that in the chat for our viewers. Here we go. There you go. There's the link in the chat. I put it in the YouTube chat, but I can also read because I actually directly like quoted the quote in the chat. So he's like. When you look at God of War, you have Kratos, Kamiya said. He's muscly, he's huge, he's bald, he looks really kick-ass, basically. So we thought, okay, we have games like this which are becoming more popular globally. Could we create something similar from a Japanese standpoint? We discussed this internally, and the conclusion that we came to was that no, we obviously can't, because this is something that is that's not unique to us as Japanese creators. So in order to make an action game that would stand out, we need to create something that expressed our unique sensibilities as Japanese creators. And Bayonetta was a result of that. When you look at Bayonetta as a character, she doesn't look strong like Kratos. She doesn't look like she could take on these massive demons. But she was very unique in the way that she was created. In the way that we view action game heroes from a unique Japanese perspective. he added. So when it comes to the term, because he was talking about like the term JRPG being a derogatory term, right? And how he doesn't view it as a derogatory term, right? So because that was actually what the article's about, or what the interview was actually about. But he made this interesting point that I thought was fascinating. So when it comes to the term JRPG, this is something that ties into this. These are RPG games that, in a sense, only Japanese creators can make with their unique sensibility when it comes to creating these experiences. I think it's certainly something that should be celebrated moving forward, and something that should actually aim to make a king of JRPGs game to express that. As Japanese game creators, we are very proud of the actual term JRPG, which is in contrast to the Final Fantasy director, I believe, who was like saying that JRPG to him was a bit more derogatory, but that was in the context of like, Western game journos shitting on JRPGs, right?
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of a different context. So yeah, no, it was a very interesting read. You can read I've linked the full article. I don't know if the link actually fucking works, but it's
I didn't see it, but maybe.
Well, I put it in the YouTube chat. I'll put it in the Discord chat for you too. So.
I don't see it in the YouTube chats.
Oh, did it not go through? Oh no.
Oh damn! Do I have?
Maybe it's because it's a link.
Maybe if I, the owner.
Yeah, you do it. Yeah. Yeah, you put it in the chat.
I see it for
there
myself.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. But anyway.
Oh, so have you seen the stream? I've been busy.
Yeah, I am looking at it. I see your graphics design is my passion bullshit you're doing. Yeah, I see. But you've got the sources in the comments.
Yeah, my source for the paper.
Your source, yeah. Yeah, sorry about that. I did link it, but I guess because YouTube is like, can you make me a mod? You should make me a mod.
I already made you something like a super.
Well, apparently I'm not. Hang on. Let me put a...
Just say something.
Yeah, there you go. I typed test in the chat, so you can just right click.
Emoji thing is in the way. Can you say something else so it pushes it a bit up or something?
Okay.
That heart thing. Terrible.
Test. Oh yeah, there you go. How's that?
Here.
What are you?
Well, here.
Fucking.
You have all the mod power.
Apparently not. Oh yeah, there we go. Now I have the wrench. I have the power of the wrench. I am now a moderator. I can now bully everyone in the chat. But anyway, I guess we should get back to the video because we fucking went on a long ass tangent about
orc sandwiches.
Yeah. Let's get back to
here. But Japan's high standard doesn't necessarily mean that America has low standards. You know what? Let me put you guys on to some fire dubs. Here, listen.
Iris! Ah! No, this isn't happening. There's no reason for me to go on. What am I fighting for?
Hold on. I got another one. Peep this one. All right, you got me. I'm not the biggest fan of dubs either, but I still reject the idea that all anime is inherently better by being in Japanese. Like, if I transition into a sponsor right now, would it automatically be better if I did it in Japanese? Kono bangumi wa goran no sponsor no teikyo de.
He's about to do a sponsor, and I skipped the sponsor when I watched the video.
Yeah. You know the titles.
Oh no, I don't actually, because I have a browser extension that automatically skips sponsors for me.
Huh? Really?
Yeah, I do. I thought I linked you all of those because I have like a whole bunch of browser extensions for YouTube that let me do shit like that.
You never did for me. But anyway, yeah.
I'll link you later. So
just press forward a couple of times.
Yeah, let's just have a look. If I drag, it's HelloFresh. Look, he's doing the cooking. He's cooking, Ali. He's cooking.
He's burned the steak.
Is doing the cooking. I watched a video about HelloFresh and how it's it's kind of worth it, kind of not. Oh, there's Naruto, so I guess we're almost there. Okay.
The thing, you know, if my opinion on HelloFresh and DoorDash and Stick Fix and a
All these things.
thousand other things is they all talk to you like you can't do it yourself, right?
Yeah.
It's like it doesn't want you to do something. It wants you to pay them to do it for you. You know, instead of hey.
Well, HelloFresh is kind of different because HelloFresh is like they give you the ingredients and you do have to do it yourself, so it's a little bit different. It's more like a grocery plan thing. And I don't have as much of a problem with that. My issue with it is more just the cost benefit. Because, like, this is gonna be another fucking tangent, but I got a pressure cooker, right?
Yeah.
I got me one of them instant pots, right? So something I've been doing recently is I've been making shredded chicken breast in the instant pot. So all I do is I just grab like a couple of big chicken breasts, stick those fuckers in there for like 16 minutes, and then they come out and I can just shred the shit out of them. And then I got chicken for like, I got shredded chicken that'll last me like half a week, right?
Yeah.
I could just put that shit. I could put that shit in anything, right? I could put it in wraps. I could put it in noodles. I made like a chicken teriyaki out of it. Like I did like teriyaki sauce, and I like put the shredded chicken in the teriyaki sauce, and I had that on some rice with some veg, and I was like, yeah, that's some good shit, you know. So it's kind of like if you're buying something like HelloFresh, which is like they're individually portioning it in such a way that you can only make like a certain amount of X meal out of what you get. I honestly feel like it's more cost effective to just like buy normal fucking groceries and then just make like meal prep kind of shit almost, right?
Yeah.
Just you know, you get more out of what you pay for, is what I'm saying. So I watched an interesting video for, I think it was Pro Home Cooks has a video about because he basically did this thing where he got a HelloFresh box, and then what he did was he made the same thing almost exactly using ingredients from his own like sources, so like his garden plus
store
plus buying them as well.
Yeah.
So it worked out to be like about the same, but one of the things he noticed was like if he does it himself, then he can like have more leftovers because he can make more, right? Because he has more
portion control over portions and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, back to the video.
For sponsoring this video. Even though I started out watching Naruto in English, I find it difficult to return to that version of the anime. There's just something about that hits different as opposed to
Fire style, fireball jutsu.
But I think that has less to do with dubbing and more to do with anime itself. Take those examples I showed you earlier. Looking at the dialogue from that Mega Man scene, I want you to read this and imagine a scene where a character is holding a loved one, screaming this at the top of their lungs, and it somehow not be cringe.
This is where I really disagree with him. Right? This is where I'm going to start to get a bit more disagreeable, because because we listened to this example, right?
Yeah.
And 650 actually mentioned in the chat, the voice actor is actually kind of decent in Buddy Fight or something else, right? I think the issue isn't the original Japanese dialogue. I think the issue is the Western localization plus directing plus, you know, possible VA performance, but I think directing is more important, right?
Yeah.
I don't think it's the original Japanese anime that's the problem. Because I think you could do a scene like this where you have a character saying something similar to this and have it still be impactful and not cringe. Right? I think that he's misdiagnosing the problem. Because I don't think the problem is anime's cringe. I think the problem is, in this particular localization / dub, the director fucked up. The director fumbled the ball, right? So what do you think about this?
I mean, if I'm going to, I don't have the fancy orcs here anyway. If I do this, whoosh.
I gotta wait for it. It's gonna take a while because I'm delayed on the stream. So
Yeah.
wait.
And
Whoosh.
if I play this,
Oh, I'd have to turn the volume on the stream, so I'm not gonna be able to hear it.
sorry, yeah, there's subtitles.
Yeah, I'm not gonna be able to hear it. So
fast. If I lose focus for a
Wait
second,
for
I'm
that.
done for.
we might have to find another way to do this. At some
But there are
point.
subtitles.
But he's different.
Okay, yeah, there are subtitles.
Do you see them, or is it?
I see the subtitles. Yeah, I just can't hear it. So
I thought they were just window dressing, but he's different. I mean, if I do it, it's terrible.
yeah, exactly.
But here it's cool.
I thought. Have you? Okay, so there's a meme, right? Which is Breaking Bad if it was an anime dub.
Yeah?
Have you ever seen that? Meme?
Never.
Bring it up. Bring it up on YouTube. You've got YouTube up right now. Type it in the chat. I reckon you'll be able to find it.
Well,
And
you see all my OP searches.
Yeah, you'll get to see all your hentai. Yeah. If you bring it up, I guarantee you we'll be able to find it. It was just Breaking Bad as if it was an anime dub, or like Breaking Bad anime dub, right? And I think it's like a scene where like Jesse the bald guy is arguing with some like cartel guy about crack or something.
My product, he's got to do it
Um,
my way. The
yeah,
right way.
I don't know what. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, this one.
Now go get me my phenylacetic
So you hear that, guys?
Asshole!
How long is it gonna take you to get him what he needs?
I don't know. I have no idea. Several hours at least. I can wait. It gives us time to talk about the state of this lab. Don't you have standards? Who do you think you are? I'm the guy your boss brought here to show you how it's done. Now, if you want to keep your job, I suggest you stop whining like a little bitch and do what I say.
I'm listening to it because I turned the volume on just to listen to it.
Well, that wasn't bad. That was pretty good.
So, but you get what I mean, right? You get what I mean.
Yeah.
That's like 100% on the directing, right? Because obviously in Breaking Bad, I don't watch Breaking Bad. I don't watch the Breaking Bads. But in the actual show, obviously they don't speak like that, right? They don't speak in that exaggerated
if I'm going to be broad for a second, it's that anime likes emotion, likes to speak in emotions, and
that is a Japanese kind of anime thing, right? Which is true.
So if you are delivering a emotional scene blandly, with if I transition back to the quote on the YouTube, Iris, this isn't happening. If you don't say that with absolute despair in your voice, then it doesn't match what you're saying with the emotion that which you're projecting out of.
Yeah, and that's what I'm getting at. It's like I don't think the problem is the Japanese script. I think the problem is the directing and the overall and the acting, basically, right? Which is downstream from the directing, because the director is the guy that's going to be telling the actor, "Hey, I need you to say this like this, right? I want more emotion, right? Or I want less emotion, right?" I feel like I'm not gonna put full blame on the actor himself, because at the end of the day, it comes down to what the director wants, right? So if the director is like, "Yeah, that's good enough," then it's going to be good enough, right? So that's why I brought up the example of the Breaking Bad, because obviously it sounds really weird to have the characters in Breaking Bad speak like they would in Dragon Ball Z, right?
But I never watched Breaking Bad, and they sounded dramatic, but they didn't sound bad.
Well, it does sound really weird. I'm gonna be.
Well, I never watched it.
It's not about if you've watched Breaking Bad or not. It's about like in the scene itself, like they're being overly dramatic for what's going on.
Yeah,
like, you'd have to. I don't know. I just think that it's a good like case study, right, into how the voice directing can completely change the way in which you interpret something like that, right? So
yeah, maybe you picked the wrong crowd, because I thought the delivery because they all matched in the same intensity, right? They were all equal. I thought they were all equally dramatic.
I don't know. I thought it was weird, but anyway.
Wrong crowd.
But that doesn't take away from my point, though, right? That doesn't take away from my point, which is basically to cap it off. It's like
yes.
I feel like putting the blame, I guess, quote unquote, even though I don't think he's actually blaming the Japanese, right? To put the blame on the script for the bad performances of actors and directors, I think is a misstep. I think that if we're going to be talking about the cringe factor, I don't think anime is the source of the cringe factor. I think the cringe factor comes from
delivery,
from the West, from that idea of the West taking something from Japan and not actually translating that properly into English in a way that makes sense.
Yeah, the delivery that you don't, like I said, in my opinion, if you don't match the intensity of what you're saying with the words that you're saying,
it's gonna come off cringe.
Yeah.
It's gonna come off cringe.
Which is
this example. Yeah.
If I'm monotone, going from "No, this isn't happening.
No.
There's no reason for me to go on. What am I fighting for?"
What's the quote from The Room? I can't remember. Oh no! There's this one thing where it's like a guy committed suicide or something.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, we're gonna get slapped by fucking YouTube for saying suicide. But
whatever.
So there's this meme from this like really camp movie or something where it's like a guy had committed suicide and he's dead in the arms of another guy, and the guy is like, "I can't believe you've done this. How could you have committed suicide? No. How could you have done this? Why did you?" Like, and he's literally saying it how I'm delivering it.
Yeah,
right.
I believe
and he's like, "I can't believe you committed suicide. I can't believe it. No." And it's like, it's so fucking bad. And that perfectly matches what you're talking about, right? Where it's like, you wouldn't expect someone who's like walked in on a friend who's committed suicide to react like that, to be like, "I can't believe you've done this. I can't believe it." So anyway, let's keep going. Let's see where he goes.
Yeah.
And my man's is running at a moving train with tears in his eyes, yelling that he loves someone that can't even hear him. It's cheesy. It's campy.
Oh yeah, 650 coming in with the save from the Lisa, you're tearing me apart. You know? Yeah, that's pretty right. But anyway.
It's melodramatic. The dub isn't what causes that. It just exacerbates it. Anime can be incredibly...
The dub is not what causes that. It just exacerbates. There are plenty of examples in Western media of the exact same shit. What the fuck are you talking about? I've seen plenty of, the girl's leaving on the train or the car or the whatever, and I got to chase after her before she goes and confess my love. Like, that is not a uniquely Japanese camp thing, okay? That is... I'm sorry. That's ridiculous to suggest that, right? Like, come on. So again, it's like I think that he's really missing the ball here. I think he's going, oh, it's the onus is on the Japanese for being cringe and campy in their animes. And while you can say yes, Japanese dialogue in anime is drummed up and it is different to how like normal Japanese people speak, right? Obviously, that's a common thing, right? Obviously, I don't think that is necessarily like I don't think like all the anime characters are hamming it up in the Japanese VA, even though yes, I don't understand Japanese. I mean, I understand a little bit. I've been working on that, right? But I'm not, it's I don't think that is a problem of the Japanese delivery and the Japanese source material script. I think it's mostly on the other direction, and it's a problem with the translation, the localization, and then the directing performance, right? And so yeah, I 100% disagree with him. I think he's dead wrong, like completely wrong. But anyhow,
yeah. Eccentric and over the top. That's part of the appeal. The best abridged series poke fun at this exact thing, and it's what makes a lot of the jokes land.
No,
that
can you pause again?
Because I knew that was coming.
I feel the same energies when people talk about isekai and tropes, and then every time an isekai anime series does something different or unexpected, it's immediately a slight against it.
Yeah. It's like the example of like, oh, Konosuba is a deconstruction of the isekai satire of isekai or whatever, and it's like, fucking shut up, bloody nerd, get in the locker.
Where it always wants the thing to hate the other thing. That the Konosuba hates the ReZero, that the ReZero hates Spider, that Spider hates Slime.
Yeah, it can't be, it comes from a place of love, right? Like, it has to be the cynical, ironic, fucking irony poison bullshit. And so his point is oh, this is the kind of thing a bridge series like Hamp Up or whatever. And it's like, yeah, but that doesn't mean that it is actually that campy, right?
Yeah, it's a different topic from the video itself. Just an annoyance, a sentiment that comes here again.
Yeah, light novels, isekai, pretty big nowadays. Yeah, you don't have to tell us that. Dio, we are quite knowledgeable on the old isekais. We're quite.
Oh yeah, saying somebody's full name is always a good moment.
Yes.
Drama.
So anyhow, let's continue.
Doesn't take itself too seriously. I made a video last year that you should watch if you haven't seen on live action anime adaptations and why I think they just don't work. Anime has its own set of tropes, archetypes, and style, all of which translate poorly to live action. I think it's a lot of the same
Look at this dude.
Wait,
do you see it? Oh, no.
Very poorly timed this is.
Well, I haven't watched the One Piece. It's funny because I have actually been hearing from some people that it's not bad.
Yeah, I'm mostly hearing that's all pretty good. So I think.
I'm skeptical that, because here's the thing, right? It depends on what you mean by good, right? Are you judging good based on how accurate it is at conveying the source material? Or are you judging it by how good of an adaptation it is? Right? Because Game of Thrones, the first few seasons, were pretty fucking good. But they change a lot of things from the books, even in those first few seasons.
Yeah.
Right? So is it a good adaptation of the books, or is it just a good show in general? I think those are like two different like categories of assessment.
Yeah.
So when you look at like One Piece, when you look at like this one, because I saw an example of this on Twitter, which was okay. I don't know how familiar you are with One Piece, right? Because I've watched One Piece up to about Pink Hazard, and then I kind of stopped.
I never
like,
watched it. I
ages
never
ago.
read it, but I
Okay,
I've got, osmosis knowledge has come to me.
Okay, so this is going to be a bit of a tangent, but I want you to. I'm going to cook, right? I'm going to cook. Let me cook, right?
Yes.
So Nami,
Yes.
the hot chick,
Yeah.
right? She has this whole background with this guy right here. With this guy's an asshole,
Yeah.
and he like kills her like family, her like mum or some shit. Like there's a whole big emotional like backstory thing, right?
Mhm.
And so there's this big moment in the show and the manga where Nami is wholly defeated, right? She feels trapped. She's completely like enslaved by this guy and having to betray her friends and do all the whole town is going to get massacred.
I'm feeling it. I feel this.
Right.
I feel the scenario.
And so she's like in the middle of the street, and Luffy comes up, right? And she's crying, and she's stabbing her arm because she's got this tattoo of this guy's like emblem or whatever on her arm, right? And she's like stabbing it, and Luffy doesn't ask any questions, doesn't ask about the backstory, doesn't give a shit. He just takes his hat off, puts it on her, and then just because she like gets to the point where she actually asks him for help, right? And she's like, boy, and he doesn't say shit. He just takes his hat off, puts it on here, and he walks off to go fight this guy, right? And kick his ass, right?
Yeah.
And that is a big characterization moment for Luffy, because it creates the point of Luffy doesn't give a shit about all of the backstory shit, right? He doesn't fucking care. He just cares this person has asked him for help, and now he's gonna go do it, right?
Yeah.
Because he wasn't going to do anything until she asked him for help, right? She had to. It's kind of like a classic, you can only help those who will help themselves kind of thing, right? Like she has to actually ask him for help for him to go and do the thing, right? In the live action, from what I understand, they have her go through the whole backstory with him before he decides to help, rather than him just coming across, walking up to her while she's boiling in the middle of the street and just doing it. Now, I could be misremembering, right? Because this was like a long time ago when I watched this, right? So maybe it was a little bit different. But from what I understand of the moment, it's very different now in the live action to have the backstory explained to Luffy and then have him act versus Luffy just acting of his own accord because he was asked for help. Right?
I do understand that the Netflix show truncates a bunch because it's like 10 episodes or something, and it's
10 episodes, but the episodes are like an hour long or something. It's like full.
Yeah, but still, it's
massive. It's longer episodes, so that's something to keep.
But still, it adapts like 3 seasons in 10 episodes, 10-hour episodes.
It's gonna be compressed. Yeah, like no matter how you look at it, it's gonna be.
So you get introduced to Nami's backstory, and Luffy is there on screen because he's the main protagonist, and they solve it together.
And it's been explained directly to him what the like that's kind of. But the thing is like that sort of ruined, like it changed to me. That changes the characterization of the character.
Yeah, I mean, as far as I can tell, there's very little. I have similar things with the adaptation of Overlord into anime from the light novels, where there were some moments that had big emotional impact. Because you know Overlord, right?
Yeah, I do. I watch it quite religiously. I love Overlord. Yeah.
Have you do you know the moment where Lupsigia Beta gets told by Ainz, "You disappoint me"? Because, she lets the village get attacked. And she doesn't care for the humans. And then Ainz comes, she gets summoned to Ainz's office, and Ainz says, "I'm disappointed in you." And in the anime, it's over, and then Ainz go from, "But it's okay, I'm the responsible one, etc. I'm the boss, therefore I'm responsible, therefore it's my fault."
Right.
But in the light novels, the room goes silent, and there's a tension of claws being slowly extending from Demiurge and Albedo.
As they're about to fucking murk.
Yeah, like
because you disappointed Ainz.
Yeah, because they're all definitely afraid.
You're gonna fucking die now.
They're all definitely afraid of disappointing Ainz. They think that because they disappointed the other creators that they disappeared.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, I see where you're coming from. And you miss that kind of characterization and context, right?
Yeah. So, in my opinion, you could have used a half a second of darkness or silence or claws extending or whatever to show the tension for
ominous.
But then it passes and Ainz says something and then it's okay. But it wasn't there, and I really wanted it to be there. I was excited to see the tension,
now,
and it wasn't there.
I'm gonna preface the One Piece stuff just in case I get fact checked, right? It's been a long time since I watched that part of One Piece, so I could be completely fucking wrong. I'm just going off what I saw on Twitter the other day, right? I'm just remembering plus what I saw on Twitter. So if I'm wrong, I'm fully willing to eat the hat, right? I'm willing to go, yeah, I fucked up, right? Okay, that's fine. So, I just wanted to put that out there, right? Because I know that there's a possibility that I'm wrong, but I do agree with you on the overall point, which kind of ties back into what this guy's saying in the video, where I don't think this is an exclusive thing to anime adaptation.
No,
right?
Of course
I think
not.
this is just a thing. All adaptations have this, right? Game of Thrones had this. Harry Potter had this. Anytime you're going to take something from...
I remember childhood memories almost that in the second book, or in the first book, when the Harry Potter's house gets inundated with these letters from owls.
All the owls, yeah.
They flee, and there's this tense moment in conflict when they go to this remote island and stuff to escape the birds, and and in the movie it's, oh no, owls and letters everywhere, and and then it immediately cuts them to being on this abandoned tower island in the middle of nowhere.
You miss that in between tension, yeah.
Yeah. Also,
so it's but of course it's kind of like you have to again, when you're taking something from one medium to another, there's going to be some loss in translation. That's just the fact of life, right?
And
you have to decide.
I wanted to address the comment sections that.
Yes, I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't really downplay it as per se. It's more like it obscures it a lot, where the light novel is far more explicit. You really have to assume and dig for it in the anime.
I remember because I watched a couple of things about differences between the light novels and stuff. I have to get back. I have the first volume of Overlord on Bookwalker. I have to get back to reading it. I got to get back to doing my reading. I have to actually read shit. I know. Yeah, in the anime, it's definitely a lot more implied, right? You can piece it together if you think about it hard enough, and how she acts. But it's from what you're telling me, it's a lot more explicit in the original word.
Yeah, because
but again,
it's all because of course Renner does everything sneaky and suspiciously.
Yeah.
And if you're going to adapt every implication, suspicious behavior,
yeah,
there's no
every
end.
little hint, every little hint and nod, and something's wrong. Yeah. So, but anyway, that just goes back to the point of it's a matter of like fact that when you take something from one medium to another, be it anime to live action, or book to live action, or book to anime, or manga to anime, or whatever, like you're gonna lose some stuff. And I feel like you have to kind of judge. You can judge the quality of something in two different ways, in that you can judge it based on how good of an adaptation it is versus how good it is standalone, right? So the One Piece Netflix anime adaptation or whatever, right, live action, maybe it is really good on its own. Maybe it is actually, I mean, despite what we're seeing on screen right now, maybe it is actually pretty good. Even if it is a different interpretation of Luffy as a character, right? Maybe it is actually quite good. I don't know. I haven't watched it. I don't plan to watch it. I don't really care enough to watch it, right? But I'm it could be good. It could be good. I don't know. But at the same time, from everything that I'm hearing, it does cut a lot of corners. It does change a lot of things about Luffy's characterization that I know people are not happy about. There's a number of like indiscrepancies and stuff that make it, not a good adaptation of the source. So yeah, I guess that kind of can cap off this little tangent, and we can continue with the video.
Principles at work here for why so many fans have such a visceral reaction to hearing dubbed anime. Hearing all the silly shit that's said in the average anime in a language that you actually understand makes just how exaggerated and campy everything is front and center. When you're watching with subtitles, the Japanese voices act as a kind of barrier between what's being said and what's being understood. If you don't speak Japanese, there's an additional degree of separation when it comes to interpreting the dialogue. Reading a shonen protagonist give a power of friendship-ass speech is one thing, but actually hearing them say,
"I fight for my friends."
Also, English speakers are
I don't think that line is bad, by the way.
I don't either, but again, I just, as we already went through like an hour ago, I wholly reject his premise, basically. I reject his premise that, the Japanese script is cringe, therefore when it's translated into English, it's more cringe because you can actually understand it, right? Because I think he's also like not taking into account the fact that Japanese as a language is completely fucking different structurally to how English is spoken, right? Because I've been learning Japanese a little bit on my off time, like a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of like I sort of like I understand how they put the verbs at the end, they do the structure a lot different. A lot of things are dependent on the context of things, right? Like one sentence can mean one thing when spoken in a certain context versus another, right? And there's a lot of stuff like that goes on in the Japanese language. So I don't actually think it's fair to say, well, in Japanese it's also cringe because of how it's written, and I don't believe that. I don't believe that.
No, because also you have all these false confessions in Japanese, right? But that's because the sentence structure, the way you say it, allows for that so easily. Skida. That's a sentence without a subject, without an object marker, and everything. It's such a interpretive sentence. You can't. It barely. It's a miracle that it even exists on its own.
So that's why I wasn't really saying anything during any of that, because I've already kind of rejected the premise. I've already rejected his point. So let's keep going.
To rate Japanese voice acting. Of course, a strong performance can transcend language, but you're still not going to be able to notice the finer nuances and nitpick the same way you could with English. Ask anybody who hates English dubs to name a single anime with bad Japanese voice.
If you pause, then I'm going to switch over to Yeah, terrible for you, I know, but I'm going to switch
Yeah,
over.
until we figure something out, we'll have to figure something out.
So I'm going to play a
we
little
might
bit.
have to have like 5 watch together links open.
Oh
so
no!
So that we can like
Why
switch
don't you
between
just take remote
pre-bid
control of
shit.
my computer? Then
Yeah, we're going to redeem Google Play card on special website to allow you to fix thing. Yeah.
Yes.
Let's
Look all the updates there.
so anyway.
I'm going to play 2 OPs because I was searching for a lot of OPs, as you might be able to tell from the recommendations I have right now.
yeah.
And the difference in quality of the song. All right. First, a little bit of Mayo Neko Overrun.
Yeah, let's get copyright strike. Let's go.
Yay!
Let's do it. Hype.
All right, that's Mayoi Neko Overrun, if I'm correct. Probably. I don't think that song is pretty good. I don't think that's the singing is actually very good. Now
I don't think it's terrible. I don't think it's terrible, but it's not like I would say it would horrific or anything.
Now this is another cast that sings.
Okay. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on the screen until it switches.
And that's another. And I think this is a way better singing than the previous one. So
right. And you can tell the difference, right?
Yeah.
So on the one hand, I agree to the extent of I think most people probably either don't care about the difference or would recognize much of a difference, personally. So I agree in the context of internet debate bro shit, right? in the context of dubs are shit. The Japanese sound so much better. It's like, no, you can't. I don't think you can tell. Okay, I don't think you'd be able to tell a good Japanese like unless you're like deep in the weeds like me and Elia, right? Right? Like you could probably differentiate if you've listened to enough Japanese, right?
Yeah. But also, I mentioned to you before, but anime is generally just very competently made. There is hardly any, there's shortcuts, there are animation errors, but there's nothing really structurally bad about anime, except Exam.
Yeah, and except Exam, yeah. But it's obviously there are bad animes, and obviously some animes are better than others, and so. But I can kind of agree with the overall point that on the whole. I don't know, because I don't want to fall too much into the whole like worship Japan's better, blah 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 stuff, right? I don't want to fall into that trap.
No, right? I just think that Japan has an industry, a bottom floor of quality that is just generally higher.
It's kind of like what we were saying earlier when he was talking about how Japan has like schools for voice acting.
Yeah, and there aren't in
there's
America.
Probably like qualifications and stuff that you get to do stuff, which is not something that exists in the East.
Yeah,
right?
because apparently you can make a terrible movie in Hollywood, but an anime is better directed than the $1 billion Hollywood movie, because
But going back to his overall point, though, I can tangentially agree with him, right? I can tangentially agree that I think that most people who argue that point probably wouldn't know the difference anyway. And I think that I wouldn't argue that point, because I honestly think that one of the things that Natsu misses in this is that I think a lot of people just find the Japanese language, spoken language, I don't know if audibly is the right word. Like I want to use like aesthetically, but it's not like visual. So I'm going to use like a made up word that probably doesn't
No,
exist.
aesthetics.
Audibly,
You can
right?
apply aesthetics to other things.
Okay, well I'll just say aesthetically, right? I think that a lot of people just find spoken Japanese aesthetically pleasing to the ears. I think people just like, and I think that's why, for example, I like listening to a lot of Japanese music. You know, I like the Hatsune Miku's. I like a lot of like Japanese rock bands. I like a lot of Japan. Even though I can't directly understand what's being said, I can pick up on the emotions of what's being said, and I like the tune and the vocal range and the up and the down and the all of that stuff. And I think that also doesn't just apply to Japanese. I like, to use myself as an anecdotal example, I like a little bit of Russian stuff. I like a little bit of a little bit of the Russian music, a little bit of the spoken Russian stuff. There's this one Arknight song that's really, really fucking good, that's spoken entirely in Russian and sung entirely in Russian, right? So I think that a lot of English speakers, at least, right, because obviously I can only speak from the English perspective, right, because that's my spoken language and my main language, right? I think from the English perspective, there's a lot of people that just find other languages or audibly aesthetically pleasing without necessarily understanding it. It just sounds nice to them, right? And I think there's nothing wrong with just admitting that. With just saying, I like the Japanese and I watch it subbed because I just like the way the Japanese sounds compared to the English. I actually don't. I think a lot of people would get like dunked on for that and made fun by like the dub purists or the dub lovers, right? They'll be like, that's cringe and gay that you have a personal preference or whatever, even though like their like of dubs is also a personal preference, so it's kind of stupid.
Yeah,
right? But I think that more people should just be honest about that. I think it's fine to just say, I like the Japanese. I just like it.
So let me pull out my ESL card here.
Oh yeah.
My ESL card. Yeah. English, not my native language. English.
Yeah.
I miss sometimes, kind of the warmth that I get from my native language in English. English is more often cool, but if I want something to express something very intimately, then I think my own language is far more better suited for it. Because I'm more familiar with it. If I want that tiny nuisance, that nuance between being friendly and nice, then I can pick it out in my own language. And in English, it's all more cold to me. I don't think, maybe I think this is also mostly because of talent pools and number of people. I think there are more English songs that are better than Dutch songs, but there are a couple of Dutch songs that I really like, and they have some very good emotional weight to them because they do something, a nice little twist in the language, and I see what you did there.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting perspectives, right? It's interesting perspectives because, like you said, I think there's something to be said about just admitting, hey, I find this more, because it could be the other way around. Like there are definitely probably people out there that just find the English VAs more aesthetically pleasing. They just do. They just like it because it's more pleasing. And I think a lot of these arguments about I don't want to read, or I just blah 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 blah, I want to be able to understand. I think some of that is just cope. And it's the same for sub watchers too, obviously, right? I think a lot of those arguments are just like debate brain, I have to own the other side type shit. Whereas it could be easily just explained away as, yeah, I just have a personal preference. And that's it. You know, it could be just as easy as that. You know.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's get back to the video. Let's see where we go.
acting. They can't. They can't scrutinize the performance without being able to speak the language. Take the 2016 anime Erased. The Japanese casting for this show was unique in that 2 live-action actors with 0 prior voice acting experience were chosen to play the protagonist. One voices him as a child, and the other voices him as an adult. I watched this anime as it was airing, and closely followed the online discourse, but I never once heard any complaints from sub-watchers that the voice actors sounded out of place or inexperienced. It's not something that I picked up on either until I looked into the casting and revisited the anime trying to find differences between the performances of these 2 actors and everyone else on the show. Are the Japanese just born to be voice actors and master the
So
craft
can
without
I
needing any practice?
interject for a moment?
Well, no.
Oh,
Cast-
sorry. There we go.
Because there was a similar thing going on, and I noticed it right away. You know Euphonia? Hibiki Euphonia?
Yeah.
You know the first, the second season? The difference between
I
them?
haven't watched it, but I know of the show. Yes.
So first off, the Hibiki Euphonia is adapted from a novel, not a light novel.
All right. So, okay.
You can feel the difference in just, emotions and what's being told. Secondly,
Right.
first season, fun time, etc., etc. Then you have the second season, and then hey, they talk a little bit differently. They less high notes in their voice.
Oh.
And
Oh,
then
boy,
you
what's happening?
what's
here?
happening? They were told to sound less anime-like,
Ah,
and you can hear it. I could hear it.
interesting.
So I don't buy that. I don't think that's you need to be of a higher mind, higher education, whatever, enlightened to notice these differences. It's secondly more. It's more. Do you notice and do you say something about it? Right? Do the
Yeah.
voice actors sound a little bit differently than the other people? Sure.
Yeah.
Is it
I
something
think right
worth?
now. Yeah. I think right now he's just trying to hammer in his point of like these people don't understand Japanese, so they can't, which we've already kind of discussed. But so I agree with you. I think it's like you're either going to notice or you're not going to notice, and I don't necessarily think it matters. Like, oh no, you didn't notice the thing that
I mean,
oh no.
Naretsu, have you heard of people mentioning that they sound less anime in the second season?
I actually haven't. This is the first time
Yeah, that's what I
I've
mean.
actually heard of this.
People
I don't
notice.
think people give a shit.
People notice stuff. People get
Yeah.
symbolism. People notice fun things you do, but they don't, commenting on it, pointing it out.
I think a lot of the time people will pick up on things like that, but they won't necessarily know how to articulate it. It's kind of like it's almost like it when you see it, that kind of thing, where you pick up on something, but you're not quite sure what the problem actually is, so you have a hard time kind of explaining
Hey, that's different.
that to someone.
That's nice.
Yeah. It's kind of and going on to what Dio is saying in the chat, big problem with modern dubs is a bridging culture and over providing accurate translation, or the whole accurate. That's like a whole nother discussion about the localization and the censorship and stuff. And I think we might get into that a little later in the video. I don't quite remember. I think he does bring that up, so we can kind of go over that when we get there, which is probably going to take like another fucking 3 hours at this rate, so we should probably get back to the video.
Yeah.
Casting inexperienced voice actors for the protagonist was a deliberate decision to isolate him from the rest of the characters and make him sound more like a real person than an anime character. Oh yeah, anime characters don't talk like real people.
それは好きだから。
And if a script is faithfully adapted to another language, regardless of the voice talent, they're still not going to sound like real people. A perfect example of this is the anime Tomo-chan is a Girl. There's a character called Carol. who's played by Japanese-American voice actress Sally Amaki in both Japanese and English. Despite literally being played by the same exact person, there's still something about the sub that just seems to work better. Because to any English speaker watching the dub, it's immediately apparent that, hey, nobody actually talks like this.
I think white would be better.
I agree with you.
How about we do a simple, sporty outfit that feels familiar but also looks a bit more feminine?
But with Japanese,
Well, well. What do you think, Kelly? Do you think that someone in real life would speak like that?
Oh
no,
yeah, mostly.
Oh, there you are.
Yeah, no, I just need to formulate my words.
You need to formulate your opinion. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's your take? Do you think that real human beings would speak like that?
This was spoken at some point by another person, not in a recording booth.
Let me. I want to go back. I want to hear it again. Just to hammer it. Okay, just to hammer it.
nobody actually talks like this.
I think white would be better.
I agree with you.
How about we do a simple, sporty outfit that feels familiar but also looks a bit more feminine?
But with
I don't think the problem is the script.
No.
I think the problem is the acting.
Yeah.
I'll be real. Okay, because I think they coming off way too dry. Especially the not the blonde chick who he's talking about, but the other chick. The other chick in the conversation. Like, yes, I agree. Ellie,
Yeah,
I agree with you.
It's maybe
I can do it again. I could do it again if you want.
No, it's fine. No, I think it's more like, yeah, like I said before, not enough emotion for what they're doing. But
Yeah,
also,
it doesn't sound natural. It doesn't sound natural.
And I think there might be a slight problem with the booth or something because it sounded a little bit hollow.
The sound quality sounded. Yeah, the sound quality sounded weird. Yeah, like I don't know what was going on there. He's gonna play the Japanese next in a second, so we can kind of compare. But I agree with you. Like there's like a problem with the booth quality. Like the sound quality sounded kind of weird. But I also think there is an issue of the. I think again it comes to directing. I think there wasn't enough push of this character should be like a bit more flowery. You know, like she's meant to be this kind of feminine, sort of flowery kind of,
antithesis to Tomo.
Yeah, and she's making a suggestion. She's saying, "Hey, I think white would look better on you. Maybe we should try something like that." And the other girl is like, "Yes, I agree." And like that is a normal fucking conversation that normal people would have in real life, right? Like, I'm not crazy, am I? Like, I'm not insane. Like, I feel like that's not, like, they're not going, like, yeah, I think white would be amazing on you. We got to get you in this white dress. It's gonna look so good. Oh man, so like I so fucking 6 months. I agree with that. That sounds sinister from you.
Yeah, the voice is this voice is completely fine. I'm missing a little bit of emotion, and the voice itself, the room feels a little bit hollow or something.
Yeah. I think there's other stuff. Going on that's causing the problem. I don't think it's necessarily the actor or the fact that it's English or the script. I think there's a lot of other shit going on. But let's see what the Japanese sounds like so we can get the point of comparison.
Japanese, Western viewers don't have a point of reference to compare to, just anime. So the voices aren't going to sound so off-putting.
服はスポーティーでちょっとだけガーリーでシンプルなボーイッシュとかどうかな。
それで行きましょう。
Enter.
So there was. Did you notice that some volume modulation or whatever?
Yeah, it was a bit different. Yeah, it was a bit different.
There was. I feel there's just more effort put into the Japanese voices.
I don't know. I think it's this weird thing where it's like there's more effort. I think there was a little bit of a change in the script, but I don't think it was that
no,
bad,
it's basically
honestly.
the same.
basically the same thing. So yeah, I don't think there's much. I think he's blowing some smoke right now. I honestly do. I don't think the problem is the script, which he seems to be saying is the problem. He's saying, "Oh, normal people don't talk like this." I'm like, no, shut up.
I don't talk like this normally, so
Yeah, like hell, we're on stream right now, and we don't. We can. I mean, I kind of ham it up, but I'm like, I'm still me, right? Like, we all put on our masks, right? When we
especially
have
when we're streaming,
conversations and
we're
different
being far
conversations.
more explainy
And expressive. Like when I'm talking with my mum, I'm not gonna be talking the same way I'm talking on stream.
with
right?
pitch going
Yeah.
up when you say
Up
something
and
smart.
down. Yeah.
I'm being smart right now, so my pitch is going up.
Yes. God, I really feel like he's fumbling the ball here, and it could have been a good point, but because he's focusing on the script so much and not all of those other factors, I think he's
Yeah, but
fumbling
his
the ball.
thesis is that the script is the problem, so he can't really get away from that.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, I hate the thesis. I really do. I hate this idea of but I hate it because in some cases, yeah, anime is over exaggerated. It isn't necessarily how real Japanese people would speak, right? It is a lot more emotive, or it will use coarser language as well. What was one, because I've been doing this listening comprehension course on my Anki, which has been using examples of this one like word, which is basically like a really rude way to say something. So it's like an ending punctuator that essentially I think that's the one. Yeah,
Yo?
I think that might be it. Yeah, it begins with Y. Yeah,
Yo.
it's something like that. It begins with Y. And it's basically like it's not necessarily used a lot in everyday Japanese because it is specifically a very coarse, unprofessional sort of, it's like you're being rude basically if you say it in that way.
If you want
right?
to be rude.
If you want to be rude, right? But that's why it's not used a whole lot in everyday Japanese, but it's used a lot in anime because it's trying to emphasize the point that this character is being rude, right? If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right? So and you can translate that into English by just having the character be rude. you know what I mean? Like, just say it in a rude way. So
Naretsu, I translate sometimes. And
you do the translations sometimes.
I should be translating. That's my Discord.
Could be translating right now, but you're spending 5 hours talking about animation.
And those damn little things on the end of a sentence that modify the meaning. Absolutely horrible. Absolutely horrible. Those nuances in meaning and position and hierarchies. Absolutely horrible to translate them into English. Which despite British English being classists as all whatnot, zero things to actually portray your class in text. Really, really strange.
Yeah. So anyway, let's keep.
The weeaboo.
Fucking weeaboos.
Oh, here we go.
Be like, where are the subtitles? And nobody talks like this.
Anime is Japanese, but anime is not Japan. Having your sole interaction with Japanese culture be through anime makes for a slippery slope where some fans base their understanding of Japanese norms off what they see in anime. Let me spin you a little yarn. Back when I was a youngin', just a hormonal teenager enjoying my Japanese cartoons. I was watching.
Keep forgetting I have to.
Almost all my interaction with American culture is movies. And Americans don't speak like in the movies.
Yeah. They're not all gun-toting cowboys.
Or
Pistols.
Iron Man.
They're shooting in the skies constantly.
Or they're all Iron Man, whatever, Captain America.
They're all superheroes. Yeah.
How strange. How strange.
God, I hate this because it's like he has a point, but it's such a fucking like.
But he's blind to his own culture. He doesn't know that from my non-American viewpoint, Americans in the movies is all I see, and they don't speak like in the movies, and then I know.
I feel like this point doesn't take into the fact that most people very quickly transition out of the stage, and there's very little people over the age of like 13, right, that actually fucking act like this. Right?
Yeah.
I especially now with the whole irony culture where, being a weeaboo or being like genuinely passionate about something is cringe, right? I don't think because this is why I don't actually like using weeb anymore. Because it's been completely fucking ruined. Because back when I was a youngin', there was a clear distinction between anime fan / otaku, whichever one you wanted to use based on your proclivity, right?
Yeah.
And weeaboo, right? Because the weeaboo was definitionally somebody who idolized Japan and idolized Japanese culture at the expense of their own culture. So it would be like, fuck America, I hate America, Japan is based and cool, and they have the anime and the
they're so
cool
high tech, they
things.
have the levitating train.
Yeah, and their culture is so cool and clean and shit, like, and they would actively shit on their own culture to basically jack off Japan. That's what a weeaboo used to be, right? To me, right? So it was very, like, definition, and that's why we would all joke about the weeaboos and stuff, right? It would be kind of like that. Now, people just toss weeaboo out to, like, anyone that remotely enjoys, like, something in anime that's like unique to anime.
Nah,
like, let's say, like,
so the thing is though that weeaboo is such a niche term. It's not reused anymore.
I don't think it's used as much anymore, but I do. I mean, he's fucking using it, right? So he's
but as a thing because he's old and knows the term.
No, but I do think it is used, and I think nowadays it's used in this ironic kind of, oh, I like anime. I'm such a weeaboo. Ha ha. Yeah, no, it's like, ha, I'm a weeaboo. Ha, I like itchy or whatever, and it's like, ha, and I see a lot of people doing that, right? And I think it's fucking like, it's stupid. All right, like, no, you're not a weeaboo if you're just an anime fan, right? Oh, you like this campy or somewhat weird or whatever aspect of anime, right? That doesn't make you a fucking weeaboo, right? It fucking drives me up the wall. That's why I'm trying to not use weeaboo as much, and I try to like stick to just like using otaku, right? And I really wish people would stop with the self-loathing hatred bullshit. It's okay to like anime, all right? You don't just because you like, just because you like anime doesn't mean that you are one of those very small minority niche of people that thinks that Japan is super Sugoi perfect or whatever, right? Like super kawaii perfect Japan, right?
Yeah, but
anyway,
let's continue because
he's about to get into his own personal history with weeaboo.
Watching the show Kaicho wa Maid-sama or some other shoujo anime, and a thought crossed my mind. These maid cafe things are kind of interesting. I wonder if we have one of these over here. So I looked it up, and I found one in Detroit, Michigan. Now, I got love for my black brothers and sisters, but what I saw made me want to gouge my eyes out, grab the nearest sharp object, and commit Sudoku. Any desire I had to ever visit a maid cafe was swiftly cringed out of my body. When you see something anime outside the larger context of Japan, it's pretty easy to look at it and go, hey, this shit kinda weird. But even within the context of being in Japan, it's still weird.
Genuinely, I don't think I felt more uncomfortable in my entire life.
Not everybody.
BBC on Japanese
Yeah,
culture.
are we're gonna take the word of the BBC to tell us what's
Although
cringe and
I
what's
thought
not
James
cringe.
May's Japan was
That was pretty good. I've seen some clips from that. It's pretty based. Have you seen
But
the one where he like dresses up in the full samurai get up and he's sitting on the fucking...
Oh,
he looks like a fucking warlord. It's great.
fun for everybody.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, this is kind of what I'm getting at. It's like, so he's making the point that all of the stuff out of the context of anime is cringe or whatever, and it's like, okay, maybe some things might be cringe, but at the same time, I don't really. I don't know.
You know what's cringe to me, Naretsu? The football.
What was that? The footballs, yeah.
The
balls
football,
or
the hype around sports.
That's your problem. It's Detroit.
I live in the nation of the football sport hype.
Yeah, and you don't give a shit. Yeah.
No, it's cringe.
It's like me. It's like me and the rugbies. Yeah, it's like I don't. So yeah, no, I don't agree with him here. I don't agree with him. But let's continue.
Nobody watches anime, let alone talks like an anime character. Otaku aren't looked upon favorably. I guarantee you that if you're late for work in Japan and you walk up to your boss with a piece of toast in your mouth and tell him, boss, I'm sorry I'm late. I stopped by the maid cafe to have some omurice and tea. Your boss is not going to turn around and be like, stop, daijoubu da yo, wakarimashita. Who is your favorite maid? Mine is Chizuru-chan. She is so kawaii. Everything Japanese.
I think this is just being ridiculous.
Yeah.
I think this is being ridiculous. Like, fucking obviously, that's not gonna happen, and that's not how that fucking works. And this is what I mean by, like, anyone with half a fucking brain cell, after, like, the age of, like, 13, is gonna fucking realize this, right?
It does prepare
like, you could be
sometimes
like,
that
you could be the most zoomery of zoomer, right? And I'll shit on the zoomers all day, every day, right? I will trash the zoomies and the generation that's gonna probably come after the zoomies, right? I will fucking be the first to do some zoomie bashing. But even then, I think they understand that real life, like, at least to some extent, unless you ask certain parts of Twitter, I think they understand that real life is not the same as the animes, and that
but I do see sometimes that people like when talking about anime and but anime is huge in Japan. It's a big thing there. If you talk to a random guy on the street in Japan, they say no, anime is weird. It airs.
Well, yeah, but here's the thing. That's fucking everywhere, though.
Yeah, but also
I can pull a random guy off the street in New Zealand and ask him about, I don't know, like some
Call of Duty shoot games. Show him Call of Duty.
Yeah.
I'm
gonna pull some random dude off the street and be like, hey, what do you think of Armored Core 6? You know?
No, I mean more.
Do you
in the
know
sense
about
of
the hit? Do you like? What about Elden Ring? Have you played the hit FromSoft game Elden Ring? They're gonna look at me like I'm fucking insane. They don't give a shit.
No, I'm a bit
Like,
more on the moral grounds of that. If you show somebody random person on the street and you you show them, a pretty gruesome scene in the Call of Duties.
Yeah, you show them fucking No Russian, yeah.
And they go, oh, terrible! How could they make this? That's everywhere.
Like, yeah, it doesn't fucking. This is what I hate about these arguments. Like, this doesn't fucking mean anything.
Also,
it's it's stating the obvious, right?
Well, also,
like,
I just to for my own agenda that even if people in Japan think it's weird, that doesn't make it bad, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's where I'm kind of going with this. It's like, so anime and otaku culture is not the entirety of Japan, right? And not everyone in Japan is the super otaku into the animes or the military stuff, whatever, right? Whatever they're into, right?
The train or whatever.
The trains or whatever. That doesn't make these niche hobbies bad. It doesn't. It's not a moral problem, right? Because the normies don't think the anime is super cool or what. It's like, who gives a shit? I don't fucking care about what some normie on the street thinks. I like my fucking animes. You know? I hate it when people do that. I legitimately hate it when people do this. They're like, we have to appeal to what the normies think, and that makes the point that Japan is not all weeaboos or what? Well, not weeaboos, but like they're not all otakus or whatever. It's yeah, of course not. Not every Japanese person is like super into Western media either. You know, like they're not all like gonna be into like the Marvels or the or the whatevers, right? Like, it's fucking stupid and reductive, and I hate it. I hate it. I want it to stop, Ellie. I want it to stop. I want the torture to stop.
Let's continue.
Yeah. Six Fisto's good. It's because weird equal bad train of logic. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's like, this maid cafe is I think it's cringe and it's weird and it makes me feel uncomfortable.
Uncomfortable must be eradicated from society.
Yeah, it's weird. We have to get rid of it. Yeah, it's bad. Yeah, I hate it. Let's go.
Is heavily romanticized and even fetishized all over the internet, and Japan does hold some blame. Anime is a cultural export and an incredibly profitable one. There's a reason why Obama thanked Japan's late Prime Minister Shinzo Abe for introducing the rest of the world to the art form.
Like karate and karaoke.
Can you pause real quick for a political statement of mine?
I wanted to let Obama finish and say.
Yeah, go ahead.
So he's done it now. You can.
Shinzo Abe was assassinated because that cult church thing stuff going on, right?
Yeah.
Have you heard the cult stuff?
I have heard the footnotes of it. Yes. Basically, from what I understand, there is some shady shit going on. It's kind of like some sort of like Illuminati style.
Yeah,
like
but you have to give all your money to them, etc., etc.
To the club, you got to be part of the club or whatever, and they're like controlling society. And this guy who assassinated Shinzo was like some kind of
son of a mother who gave all the money to the
thing.
Because the cult
it's something. Yeah, it's complicated.
The thing is that the assassin was, hey, Shinzo Abe is in league with the church, that church cult, so I'm going to kill him. And of course, yeah, assassination successful, but also that cult might lose his religious status in Japan. Might be disbanded in Japan.
Interesting.
It might be the most. This might be the most successful assassination ever. Everything that the assassin wanted is happening.
Coming true. Also, Samu. Yeah, we're watching Naru's video about how anime dubs aren't cringe. Anime is. We've gotten quite far into it. We're past the halfway point, which is great. But to go back to the video's point, like because now he's about to get into to kind of skip forward a little bit because I've watched the video, right? He's about to get into the whole cool Japan anime as soft power stuff.
I don't think that's really relevant though to the question.
So what I hate about a lot of these points is it's like I can agree with some of the assessment, but just not all of it. It's almost like I agree with the assessment, not the conclusion, right? Like yes, Japan is fetishized online. Thing Japan. That is a meme for a reason. It is true that there are definitely elements within otaku, like Western otaku culture and online discourse that basically, you know, they fetishize Japan, to put it in the most simplest terms, right? It does happen. It's 100% real, and I agree that it's not great, and I think that people do have a bit of the rose-tinted glasses on when it comes to a lot of stuff in Japan. However, I don't really think that has a lot to do with dubs versus subs.
Yeah,
it's ironic that Samu was like, he saved you 2 hours when we're already 2 hours.
2 hours and 10 minutes.
Yeah, that's great. But you get what I'm saying, right? It's like I don't really think when people are arguing about dubs versus subs, I don't think that it's like a thing Japan kind of thing. I think people do have legitimate and some legitimate, some illegitimate reasons, and
or
it kind of boils
reasons.
back aesthetic reasons, yeah. And that's kind of what I was going to get into. It goes back to what I was saying like an hour ago. It's like it's okay to just have an aesthetic preference. If you have the aesthetic preference for listening to Japanese voices, that doesn't mean that you also think that Japan is like the God's given country of the world and can never do no wrong and is like a fucking paradise, right? You know?
Yeah.
Also, yeah, don't worry, Samuel. We kind of didn't like announce we were going to be streaming this anyway, so we're kind of testing the waters and doing like new formats and playing around with new tech, right?
With
so
boogies and actually transitioning to other scenes with stuff prepared,
other stuff on the stuff. Yeah, we're mucking around with new shit, so we figured we'd live stream it and have some fun
and having orcs on screen.
Yeah, and having the orcs on the screen. Yeah. Which you we're not going to give you the context for that. You're going to have to rewatch the episode to find out why there's orcs on screen. But yeah, no, I think that it's like this is just getting like really into the weeds. It's getting like I don't think you need to get into the whole soft power of Japan, cool Japan, blah 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 blah.
This is really just another essay crammed into it awkwardly.
Yeah. It's like a completely different topic, so let's just see what he has to say about it.
Hentai 2.
All of the things he listed contribute to Japan's soft power. Soft power is a form of power that comes from cultural influence rather than military might. Japan has had a chokehold on pop culture for many years now, and anime is a major part of that, and it's not by coincidence. Countries are very cognizant of their public perception and are always looking for ways to increase their soft power. Japan even put together the Cool Japan Proposal, a strategy to make.
Yes, you know all about the Cool Japan proposal, don't you, Al? You know.
The funny thing is that Cool Japan miserably failed, but also is super successful.
Yeah.
It went bankrupt. I don't remember the details, but it didn't succeed in its mission statement. It went completely bankrupt, or something. But also, anime is the biggest thing in the world, so.
So it's ironic that he's bringing it up then, isn't it? Because it's like, it succeeded, but not through its own merit.
Yeah, you know? I need to look up what it actually wanted.
It just kind of naturally happened, and I think that has a lot to do with. Remember what you were saying earlier about how you believe that anime is competently made, right?
Yeah.
How the overall quality. I think that has more to do with it than anything else. I think it is, and that sounds like a thing Japan kind of argument, but I think that that's fucking true because I think it's two things, right? It's more competently made, and people, whether or not they understand it, it's like what we were saying before. People will pick up on things even if they don't quite understand what it is, right? So you'll be watching an anime and you can be, man, this is really good. I like this because it's well made, it's well directed, it's got good animation, it's got, it's got a good narrative through line, you know, blah, 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 blah. It's got all of these cool things. You might not be able to articulate all of these things, but you do pick up on them, right? Those are things that you are going to feel compared to watching something from the West, which is just trash that's filled with political propaganda and fucking, you know.
Nah, Naretsu, you know that
stuff. No, let me finish. Let me finish because
right.
I'm just kind of this is part of the point, right? I'm not solely saying it's because of the political propaganda and the woke shit. I'm saying that's a factor, right? Because you have that, you have the fact that a lot of Western animation is just outsourced to Korea. You have the fact that a lot of Western animation is simpler. It's more, you know, I mean, we make fun of Cal Arts and the Beanmouth style and stuff, right? Like, I've felt that a lot of Western animation feels incredibly samey, right, these days.
I think that the Western animation either has to be for children or for cynical adults, and there is very little in between.
That was going to be my next point, because that's going to be my next point. So let me finish the first point, right? So you have the qualitative issues, which I would factor the ESG woke shit as a qualitative issue, because what ends up happening is you have people that are focusing more on, I have to push this message versus I have to create art, right? If that makes sense, which is why people, I think, lash out against woke stuff, right? Because it becomes more about the message than the art, right? So it's less about the fact that it's woke and more about the fact that they focus on pushing a woke message rather than the quality of the actual artwork itself, right? If that makes sense. But then you go into the second thing, which is what you just brought up, which is anime is incredibly diverse, right? There are anime for little kids, there's anime for adults, there's anime for teens, there's animes for girls, there's animes for boys, there's animes for women, there's animes for men, there's animes for literally every single like demographic you could possibly think of, right? If you think about a demographic, there is probably a anime out there that will appeal to that demographic. And like you said, in the West, they don't have that same diversity. It's either this is made for kids up to like 6 to like 14, or this is made for like cynical adults, like Family Guy type stuff, right? Or whatever, right? And this was something that I believe was even true back when I was a kid. And it's one of the reasons I gravitated to anime so heavily as a teenager. Because I was like, all of these like cartoons, with like some exceptions, right? All of these cartoons feel like they're for toddlers. It feels like it's made for babies. I want to watch something that's more mature and has, you know, like, because, you know, I'm a teenager. I want to be mature, right? As a teenager. So I want to watch stuff that I feel is more adult and more orientated for my age bracket. And anime 100% fits that bill. Whether or not you want to argue about like shonen anime or whatever being mature or not, that's like a completely separate argument. The point is, those animes are directly targeted for that kind, for me in that at that time frame, right? That time of 16 through to 18, right? Of I want to be adult. I want to watch stuff that feels adult. I want to watch something that isn't going to treat me like a toddler. I want to watch something a bit more complicated. I'm going to watch, you know, shonen, or I'm going to watch some anime. I'm going to watch, you know, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. I'm going to watch, you know, like that kind of thing, right? I'm going to watch shows like that because they appeal more to that sensibility. And so those are the two factors, I think, that has led anime to gain its status as like a soft power powerhouse, right?
So I did a quick
and I don't
search.
think so. I'll finish my point, and then I'll let you go. To finish the point, I don't think that was deliberate on the Japanese part. I think it was simply a natural progression of it's just naturally happened over time. I think it's just natural. I don't think it was a deliberate, oh, Japan Soft wants the soft power, so they're going to create all of these animes to appeal to the Westers and whatever to get the soft. No, I think it was just they want to appeal to as many market demographics as possible, so that they can make as much money as possible off as many people as possible, and because of that, that's naturally allowed them to position themselves against an opponent. If we're going to be treating it like that, as East versus West against an opponent that isn't doing that. So I'll let you go now. I've had my rant.
I checked the Wikipedia for Cool Japan in a real quick, and yes, Cool Japan was also meant to do economic stuff, economic ties and relationships. Thing is, that completely didn't happen.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
Japan had some, did something with Sentai and investment from Sentai from foreign countries, from America, whatnot. $30 million. That's basically the most significant thing. There isn't more export of Japanese agricultural goods. That didn't happen. There isn't other stuff didn't happen. They did a few things. Very little worked out, but anime is everywhere. So soft power gay, Cool Japan failure.
Interesting. So to kind of address, because I'm seeing the chat. There's some interesting chats going on in the chat. I agree with 650 that early Western stuff, right? You did have stuff that appealed more to
how early are we talking
groups.
here? Are we talking like early Mickey Mouse for the?
I would argue stuff in the 80s through to maybe the early 2000s was pretty good. I would argue that. I think that you have things like, it's weird because a lot of that stuff was like Transformers, where it's like, G1 Transformers, where it's like this was made to sell this was made to sell a product, right? However, even though it was made to sell a product, it doesn't matter what age group you are. You can sit down and watch Transformers and you don't feel like you're, you don't feel like you're watching the Teletubbies, right? That's kind of what I'm getting at.
I was more thinking of Rocko's Modern Life, which I never liked because it was always very gross. It
was a very surreal show, yeah. But the thing is like that's kind of interesting because Rocko's Modern Life is like an example of this is a show. It might not. I wouldn't necessarily. It is kind of more adult. There's a lot of adult humor. It goes over like kids' heads because kids are gonna watch it and they're just gonna be like, "Ha, funny kangaroo," right? But there's a lot of adult humor in Rocko's Modern Life that you pick up on a lot more if you watch some of it later on.
Yeah, I didn't like how many times the brain fell out and then they stomp on it or something.
Yeah. So, but the thing is, just because you don't like it doesn't necessarily it's like with anime, right? There's plenty of animes that it's like I'm not interested in them, but it's less about like personal preference right now and more about like the diversity of content.
Yeah, sure.
I don't like.
I just
like,
I was thinking of the semi-adult cartoons, and Rocko's Modern Life was the only really I could come up with.
I'm pretty sure that there's Avatar: The Last Airbender. I would say
that's some later teen stuff.
Yeah, because it's less about that and more like you could watch that at any age and still get something out of it, right?
Well, I suppose Wakfu was pretty fun.
Yeah, like I can't watch what would be an example of something that's like that's more modern? I feel like a lot of the problem is like these modern shows just kind of aren't made to appeal. They're made to appeal to a very specific demographic of people that I'm not a part of. Like Steven Universes and your what was that one? The Owl House or whatever that everyone was going on about. Yeah,
that's pretty big, and I have seen only clips and screenshots. It feels like it's something like an Avatar.
I've heard some mixed things about it, but let's not get too into the weeds about it. The point is like there was a period of time I think where cartoons were lagging behind in the diversity department. And I think we're still seeing the impact of that today, even if we are starting to see more. I wouldn't even call them adult cartoons because, again, they're targeting a very specific, audience that originated from a very specific website that began with T. But anyway, let's hear more about Cool Japan, shall we? Let's see what he has to say.
Yeah.
I have to remember, you have to hit the button.
Japan seemed more cool. The country first started making an effort to reform their image post-World War II after they did some things that were not so cool. Hey, weren't you guys responsible for horrible atrocities and war crimes? Cute anime gyaru.
Like I said, that's not what Cool Japan was.
That cute.
Wasn't Cool Japan like fucking decades after the war too?
Yeah, like
you have the wiki open. What year was that? Like
1980.
Yeah, that was like, because when did World War II end? It was like 19 fucking, I can't even. It was
I hear you're not in the Europe or the Atlantic region. I hear, otherwise you would have known.
Yeah, well, I mean, New Zealand did participate, kind of, because we helped the Americans, but I don't think we really weren't that affected by the war outside of.
Yeah, no, 1945.
Yeah, so it's like almost
40.
40 years.
Yeah.
Apart.
45.
So I highly doubt that Cool Japan was implemented as a direct response to wanting to redo the image of Japan.
No, it will. From what I assume and gather is basically, hey, we want more. We want to sell more stuff.
I think it sounds more to me like they already recognized that they had the soft power going, and they wanted to like capitalize on it. Is what Cool Japan sounds like to me.
Wikipedia says they distributed a TV show to foreign countries. That's pretty soft power-ish, right?
Right.
Giving other countries a TV show about Japan to watch.
So I don't like this idea that's cropped up of, oh, anime is Japan. Because I hate this, like, oh, anime is Japan trying to hide from the war crimes, Ellie. They're trying to make you forget about the camp 6954 whatever, where they did the torture or whatever. Like, these two things are not related.
I feel it's the joke and being socially aware. Maybe you could call it virtue signaling, I don't know, but I don't believe, to be serious, right? Like, I don't believe that creative people in Japan that write these light novels and these mangas and direct and produce and do these animes, right? I don't think they're doing it with the motivation of, I want to make people forget about my country's horrific war crimes. Right? Now, if you argued, because there's a difference between arguing intent and outcome, right? If he made the argument of this is an effect of anime, like some people might forget the war crime, even though I do think this is fucking stupid, right? But I'm just, for the sake of argument, right? If he made the argument of anime as soft power is having the effect of making people forget problems of Japan, right? Let's generalize it and not say directly World War II stuff, right? Let's just say Japan problem in general, right? I could theoretically agree with that, right? In terms of, yes, there are people that fetishize Japan. Yes, there are people that are going to forget about, or probably didn't even know to begin with, right? They're not going to know about any of Japan's sins, right? Big
or
war
past
crimes.
or current, past or current sins, right? I don't think people, you know, I think that maybe you could argue anime has an effect of making people not give a shit about those things. Maybe. I wouldn't necessarily agree with that either, but I think that is a much more solid argument that you could probably find some kind of like evidence for, right? If you actually researched it, versus this is all some grand Japanese conspiracy by the Japanese Illuminati church governments or whatever to make the world forget about Japan being the big bad, and they want to steal all your kids or whatever. You know, like
you know
what I mean. You know what I mean. I don't think there is intent.
The fun fact about the cult church that steals all the money from the people is that maybe Abe himself, but maybe somebody before him, basically invited the church there to be as big as possible because they were anti-communist. They were anti-communist and they were anti-gay. So come in and have government control, church.
Yeah.
And then they stole all the money and everybody into poverty and whatnot. And
which is very, very, very on point. So Samu in the chat, who generally thinks is that like a large subgroup or fringe minority, like you can't seriously think yeah. You see, I agree.
Well,
it's
not
like
forget, but sure, I can forgive.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, I could see an argument to be made here, right? About, you know, maybe the anime is being used to like fix Japan's image or whatever. But I think so much time has passed, you know, like so much time has passed since then, that I really do not believe. I honestly think I would call it a conspiracy theory. I think it's legitimately, if you actually believe that Japan creates the animes to hide the war crimes with intent, right?
Yeah, the thing is
I think you're a lunatic. Right?
There is this. Soft power is a thing, and
oh yeah, it is. Yeah, it is, and that's why I'm saying like there is an argument to be made. I just don't think it's deliberate. I don't think it's intent.
more from, hey, that's very neat. We make cool stuff, and people think we're cool, so they'll forgive our nasty bits. Hey, America, how are those Indians going over there?
How are those Native Americans doing? Yeah.
You killed them all. Oh, but you make movies, alright, that's fine. Hey, China. Oh, China, what are you doing? What?
Hey, America, remember when you put people in the internment camps during the war, and you like called them zipper heads because you'd put their heads under the trucks and do the zipper head. Remember that? Hey, remember when you firebombed a shitload of civilians? That was pretty dope.
Hey, Britons.
You know?
Hey, the Queen, all that good stuff. Hey, did you remember?
Remember when you invaded like India and like took it over and tried to colonize India? That was fun.
And then
that was a grand old time.
Real hard.
See, this is the thing. Like every country has their sins, right? Every country, you know, even New Zealand has you know, we did some things in the past that were regrettable, you know, as a colonized country. You know, like there shit happens, right? But at some point, you kind of have to go, are we really going to shackle ourselves to this? Are we really going to make decisions? Are we going to make decisions now in the present based on shit that happened hundreds of years ago?
The thing is, though, Naretsu,
can we move on?
Not to get into the politics of today, it's more that the soft power that you have can soften the pressure that you otherwise would have, because China is under big pressure for their human rights violations. They would not have been under such pressure if China had the role of Japan in media creation. because Japan has, still the death penalty and stuff, and countries pressure each other, European Union in general pressures
all the
people.
time. Yeah.
And it can't go
So
to America because it's big, but it would pressure Japan.
So let's cap it off with Samus in the chat, who's like, then again, who knows? Anime probably did make me more willing to accept the whole free speech notion. It wasn't the only thing, but it might have affected your perspective. Yeah, it's like everything affects your perspective. Like we're human. We're only human beings after all, right? We're only human beings after all. Our experiences and life's shape.
I did come across the OP of I forget the name, Bakarumon. It's not how it's spelled.
Or something, yeah.
About the calligraphy guy.
Oh, yeah, I think I know the one you're talking about.
The OP is pretty nice. It has a really a very simple message of, hey, what makes you unique? I don't fucking know. Just be yourself.
So anyway, let's keep going. Let's hear a little bit more about how Japan is the big Illuminati conspiracy. All right,
Masterminds.
Aesthetic is something that's prominent throughout Japanese media and is a direct result of how Japan markets its culture. They perpetuate harmful stereotypes that give foreigners a messed up perception of the country. Now I gotta explain to my son that not every Japanese girl speaks with a high-pitched voice.
Sorry, pause again.
Yeah. Every single Japanese creative who writes an isekai novel is doing it directly so that it can be propaganda for Japan for the state. Yeah, 100%, dude. That's definitely what's going on. This is so fucking stupid.
I had another angle. He's showing, what's this called? Blue.
He's Perfect Blue.
Perfect Blue. This scene is obviously bad. Why
That's actually a good point. Perfect Blue is critical of idol culture. What the fuck are you on about?
Way more than Oshinoko.
Yeah, exactly. Like Perfect Blue is literally about idol culture and stalking and how it's bad. And it's critical of the culture. It is critical. Yes, Ali, the movie that is critical of Japanese idol culture and is like this is super bad and bad outcomes can come of this obsession with these idols, right? That is 100% Japanese state propaganda to get you to think Japan is super cool, okay? Right? Like
Indeed.
totally. God, it's so stupid.
No,
I'm
oh man, I'm feeling some odd choices. No, that's not the right thing. It's more there's not enough thought behind picking the footage of this moment because
this seems to be like a common thing that I've noticed with some anime.
I mean, I guess it's
hard. They do this a lot.
It's hard
because we've covered a lot of people over the years, right? And it's like I haven't picked up that yet. Sometimes they like the examples that they show are just not fucking. They're either not relevant or they actively harm the point they're trying to make.
I guess it's like hard to get the exact thing with the exact.
Oh yeah, no, I'm sympathetic, right? Like it is difficult, but at the same time, it's like you would think that this guy, unless he's trying to make like the connection of, oh, I'll show something that's critical of the thing that I'm also being critical about. Like I could assume that's what his mindset probably was, but at the same time, it defeats his point because if he's making the point that anime is soft power, right? And it exists solely, or maybe not solely,
but
it exists.
Look at the idols. Idols are cool. World.
Yeah, it exists. It exists to make Japan look cool. Why are you showing an example of an anime that is critical of the thing that
makes Japan look creepy?
Yeah, exactly. It's like what the fuck are you on about, right? God, it really irks me how this like whole Japan is the anime is this conspiracy by Japan to make it it's so annoying. So annoying.
Voice and only know words. Basically, what I'm saying is,
I created you. You created me.
Wait a minute, why did you create that guy?
I did.
a country that severely lacks soft power is China. If you look up China on social media, instead of getting popular franchises, you're just gonna see social credit memes, that one nigga with the unique head shape, and but in recent years,
sorry, I fucking love bin chilling.
It's
bin
very
chilling?
funny.
I fucking love that shit. It's great. Yeah, we're bin chilling right now, Ellie. We're bin chilling
for 2.5 hours.
So here's the thing. I can agree. China has less soft power, right?
Yeah.
That's 100% true. Doesn't mean they don't have soft power. Doesn't mean they don't have media. Like, because I mean, you have War of the you have like the whole Free Kingdoms.
Yeah.
Right. You have that entire thing. That's like a really massive, popular, story / novel, which has been adapted shitloads of times. Right. You have China has a lot of cultural aspects that do bleed over into other things.
Cool
right?
dresses, cool fighting.
Yeah. You have kung fu. You've got all kinds of stuff. Really,
soccer.
like I mean, there's plenty of examples you could probably come up with of China. Food in particular. Chinese food is a big thing, right? Food is like a massive soft power thing for a lot of countries, right? Like, when you think about like
the first thing you kind of get to touch from a country.
Yeah, exactly. So I can agree that they're not as powerful as Japan, but I disagree with the premise of, they don't have any like the only soft power like China has is bin chilling, right? Right? I really don't think that's the only soft power.
To spoil it a little bit, I think he's going to mention Genshin Impact later.
Oh yeah, well we'll get into that.
You do? All right.
Well, yeah, remember I watched the video. Right?
Oh, the entire thing. All right.
Yeah, I watched the whole thing. So anyway,
there's been something working its damn hardest to change that. Genshin Impact. Genshin is a Chinese...
now he's going to conspiracy government the other way.
Yeah, yeah. You're right, actually. I didn't think of that. All right, let's go. Let's hear it.
Video game, but you'd be forgiven for thinking it's Japanese. It's extremely anime, but also extremely popular, unsurprisingly, with anime fans. Now, the last line of defense for a lot of dub haters is to say that, honestly, I just like consuming things in the original language.
I love how he just, like, makes that point, and then he just fucking drops it. And goes straight into, like, back to the actual topic of the video.
Okay,
right?
Here's my weak point of I skimmed through the video. Is he going to mention soft power again?
I don't actually remember. I don't actually remember.
Because if he doesn't, then there's the entire soft power
This is weird. Well, this is weird because he makes like half a point here, which is an actually interesting point I want to talk about, which is why does the thing China look like thing Japan, right? Why are the Chinese...
Close proximity to each other, perhaps.
Yes, but I can talk about this because I fucking love Girls Frontline, right?
Oh, yeah.
I play the Chinese spyware games, okay? Right? I can meme about it, but I don't actually like those memes, but I'm going to meme about it anyway, right? I play the Chinese weeb games, even though I should say otaku games, right? I'm reprogramming myself. It's gonna take a while, okay, guys, right? I'm working on it. It's an ongoing process. I'm removing weeb from my vocabulary. It's gonna take time, but I know a lot about the developers of Girls Frontline. I have read interviews. Right? I have looked into their history. Do you want me... I'm going to go on a mass fucking tangent, but this is very, very relevant, right?
Well, keep it a little shorter than usual.
I will try. So, Yuzong, who is the head director of Micah Team or Sunburn, depending on the region, right?
Mm.
He is the head of the Girls Frontline studio, right? He is the man. He got his start because he used to be a doujin publisher. And he would publish doujins at Comiket, right?
Yes.
So he is massive into the animes and the mangas and the light novels. He fucking loves that shit with a passion. Some of his favorite things is Ghost in the Shell, right? Gunslinger Girl, right?
Yes.
Right? You seeing where I'm going with this, right?
I know it.
He likes the cyberpunk type stuff, right? He likes that stuff. So he gets together with his mates and they start creating the world of Girls Frontline, which started off as a visual novel, right?
All right.
And then they created an RPG Maker game, right? Called Bakery Girl, right? Codename Bakery Girl, which is a turn-based XCOM style strategy game, which is getting a remake on Steam. Everyone should go bloody play the demo and go look it up. It's fucking great, right? But he comes out with this game, right? Which was codename Bakery Girl, which establishes some lore stuff. And then they get the idea of, hey, because one of the things that he published as a doujin publisher was a small little kind of girl gun anthropomorphized type thing. Because this was around the time Kankoli was starting to become really popular in Japan, right?
Yeah.
And so Yuzong is looking at this and he's going, why don't we do the same thing for guns? Because we've already done this in a doujin form, right? Where they made a doujin, which you can actually go find. I'm pretty sure it's not hard to find. Which basically is just like proto Girls Frontline, where you have all of these guns turned into anime girls. So that's where the idea for Girls Frontline comes from, right? And so they make Girls Frontline as their gotcha game, and it ends up being a massive success for them, right? Now, it's not as successful as, Genshin or MoeHoYo's games or Arknights or any of these other games, right? It's not as successful, but it's successful enough, and it's propelled them into being a pretty big player in the industry. Now, does any of this sound to you like Yuzong is an agent of the CCP who's trying to use his gotcha game to push Chinese soft power? Or does it sound to you like he's just like us, right?
But a little bit bigger.
He is an otaku who likes shit and wanted to create something in the image of what he likes. He loves Gunslinger Girl. He loves Ghost in the Shell. And if you play Girls Frontline and you read the story of Girls Frontline, there are a lot of beats in the story that you can directly trace back to the influences of Yuzong and his love of anime and manga and stuff, because he actually genuinely has a passion for it. And this doesn't just apply to Yuzong. This applies, I believe, to every single Chinese developer, right? I think that the developers of Genshin Impact are not making Genshin Impact because they're agents of the CCP and they want to push the CCP agenda or whatever. I think that the CCP is going to capitalize on that, absolutely, right? The CCP obviously is going to see that these things are popular and want to capitalize on that for their own ends. But I think the actual people that are in these development teams and are actually the devs and the creatives behind it are 100% genuine and passionate about their love of these things. And I believe that shows in the work itself, right? So that's why I hate this bullshit, right? I hate it. I hate removing the element of humanity from these people, right? And just boiling it all down to, they're trying to imitate Japan's soft power for their own ends because they want to do. It's like, can't it be the case, Ellie, that they're just otaku and they want to be creatives as well, right? And create what they love.
Yeah, soft power. I feel that soft power is very hard to deliberately do anyway.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's. That's why I'm saying I think it's not deliberate. I think it's just good thing, right? Thing good. People like good thing.
Let's dress up as Mario at the Olympics.
Yeah. People like the good thing. Other people want to make the good thing. They imitate the good thing. They create either their own good thing or worse thing.
You better believe that every Dutch visit to another country has tulips.
Yeah. Tulips. You're gonna take your windmills with you. You're gonna
always, every time.
A
little bit of cheese.
What's that? The porcelain stuff that
Delft?
You guys do.
Delftblauw.
Pretty sure that's what it is. Yes, I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Yeah. You remember? I'm half Dutch. Remember? I've got half of your DNA in me. I know about the Dutch culture, don't you? You know, I know about the wooden shoes and the stuff. You know, I know a little bit.
Lactose tolerant? The real test.
Yeah, I can drink the milk. Yeah.
Hey, you're one of us.
I can drink the milk. Yeah. So yeah, no, it's I needed to have that passionate rant because I'd actually been holding that one in for quite a while. It's like, because I hate because it gets used on the Chinese developers so much, right? And it's worse for the Chinese developers because obviously it's like I can recognize the CCP as evil shit. I hate the CCP. I wish the CCP would just go away, right? I hate it. Not only because they censor these devs and they attack these devs and they try and control these devs, but because they're just evil in general, right? I hate them. But I'm not going to go and say every single Chinese person and every single Chinese developer is an agent of the CCP, right? I think that's fucking ridiculous. I think it's stupid, right? And it's the same with Japan. It's the same with hell. Like, I don't think that all American media is about projecting America soft power on everyone, right? America's got its own means to do that with its military. It doesn't need soft power.
Well, there is this one quirk of America media where you can't portray the American military in any negative light if you set foot on...
but again, it's the same shit, right? So the CCP doesn't like it when you portray Chinese, you know what I mean? So,
yeah.
I mean,
well,
there's a bit of that everywhere.
That's a little bit of image control, and it's kind of
weird.
Yeah,
and that's what I mean. Like, I'm not saying it doesn't happen, and I'm not saying that it's not a factor. I'm just saying this isn't the fucking Illuminati. Right?
No, it's real. If I really feel it's more
not
of a hindsight.
It's not an Alex Jones fucking conspiracy theory, right? It's literally as easy as good thing good, simple as, right? But anyway, let's get back to the actual topic of the video now that we've talked about soft power.
Well, apparently soft power wasn't even a topic in this video.
Yeah, I don't know why he fucking drifted into that tangent. It's so stupid. But anyway.
That it was made in. Dubbing to English changes too much. But in this Chinese game, made by Chinese people, I have not met a single person who plays with the Chinese dub. It's either English, or more times than not, they're playing in Japanese. This is what makes me think that it's because of an established association between the anime aesthetic and Japanese language, rather than some innate quality that makes Japanese voices superior to all others.
Or maybe just people find the Japanese aesthetically more
Or maybe there's more talent in the Japanese.
I don't think it's that. I don't think it's that. I think the Chinese... Because here's an interesting little factoid. Like, I mentioned this when we were talking about this before we watched it, right? But Arknights is a fantastic example, which is actually going to be more relevant later in the video, but I'm going to bring it up now because it is somewhat relevant now. Yeah. Arknights is unique, even among gacha games, right? They have an entire system where you can select the dub for characters per character. So they have Korean, Chinese, Mandarin, right? Chinese Mandarin, Chinese regional, English, and I think in Japanese, right? And I think there's also Italian for some characters.
Oh, because
right?
they're Italian characters?
Because they're Italian characters. Yes, I'm about to get into that. Because Arknights draws heavy influence from real life culture and location.
I
right?
remember
So you
some
have like
Atlantis thing you showed me one time.
Yeah. So you have
it was from Portugal, wasn't it,
right? Spain.
Spain in general. Right.
Spain. So you have like Spain. You have like a Spain allegory. You have Russia. You have Britain. You have Scottish. You have Irish. Right. Because the IRA is in the game. It's quite fun. I'm not going to get into this. But it is fucking great. Actually, it's really interesting how they. But this is what I mean. They take real life ideas like that, and then they extrapolate them and put them into this sort of fantasy setting. Almost like I say fantasy, but it's not like. I'm not meaning fantasy as in like castles and I mean fantasy just as general, right?
Fantastical.
It's like, it's a fantastical setting, right? But they go an extra mile in terms of immersion by allowing you to go, hey, I want all of the characters from the English countries to speak English. And not only are they going to speak English, but if they come from the Irish or the Scottish, whatever allegories, they will have Scottish or Irish accents. If they come from the British allegory, they will have British accents. If they come from the Australian-ish allegory, they will have sort of an Australian tinge to their British accent, right? And it's really, really cool, right? And I really like it because it lets you kind of be like have that sort of immersion level. Right? And the point I'm trying to get at here is that is 100% an aesthetic thing, right? Like, you don't have to do that. You could just have everyone speak Japanese or Chinese or Korean or whatever, right? And so I find it interesting how I can agree. Yes, there is probably a connection between the anime aesthetic and Japanese, and that's why a lot of these Chinese gacha games probably only have a, Japanese dub, right? Because that also is probably because that's the market they're trying to aim for, right? They're aiming for the Japanese market and the market of people that consume Japanese media. So they're probably wanting to have Japanese VA because it's more familiar, right? So I can agree with him on that respect. I just don't think that it is I don't see that as a bad thing necessarily. And I don't see it as an extension of soft power. Like he's trying to make the point that this is all about, soft power or whatever, right? And I'm like, no.
I don't. The soft power just throws me off at the moment.
It does, yeah. Individual voice selection should be the standard. He's about to kind of get into that, but I don't necessarily disagree. But the thing is there's a reason why it's rare, because it is a lot of I can imagine Arknights is spending a lot of money on VAs, right? Because they have to get a dub for each language and each accent, you can't change the accents obviously, but they have to find actors that can portray what they want to do with that particular character. And not all of the quality on some of them is not great. Like, some of the English VA work in Arknights is not fantastic. But the great thing is because you can change it per character, I could just go, right, I'll just have that person speak in Japanese or Chinese or, whatever I think would fit them best, right? you're not limited, right? So I think that's an interesting thing to consider. And we're going to bring that up again in a minute because he's going to get into his solution to the problem, which is going to be quite fun to talk about, isn't it? So let's let him continue.
I don't even entirely disagree with the original language thing. Maintaining the integrity of the original script is important when translating. Dialogue often has to be localized so that it makes sense to the audience you're translating for. But sometimes localization turns into bastardization, and scriptwriters make something completely different. Sometimes it works out. Usually it doesn't. Like with the aforementioned donut from Pokemon.
Jelly-filled are my favorite. Nothing beats a jelly-filled donut.
And with this anime.
Have you got a stick up your ass? Or are you one of those dumbass Gamergate peep shows?
Well, that That's just not what was said. Localization is meant to take.
Ah, Ellie, the memories.
That was dated the second it aired. Such bad.
The good old days of arguing on Twitter. But no, I don't actually. You see, this is interesting because I don't disagree with him. I think it is a problem that localization has its issues. Right. There's definitely an issue of not wanting to, stick to the original script, which probably has a lot to do with the fact that the scripts seem really weird to him in English. I wonder if he actually connected those two dots. Because if his problem is the original Japanese script is bad and that translates bad into English, I wonder if he's connected the dots that perhaps maybe the actual issue is that the English translation is shit. I wonder.
It is difficult times when you want to capture the mood of something, and then.
Oh yeah, totally. I don't have zero sympathy for it because you know more than I do, right? Because you do the translations, right? There's definitely you do have to adapt things and change the wording and the way. I'm always going to be of the position, and I've kind of radicalized and de-radicalized and radicalized again on this position, all right? But I've kind of settled on, as long as the original intent and meaning of the script remains intact, I don't mind if there is at least a little bit of leeway, right, on, okay, maybe they didn't say exactly that, right? But it's the same meaning at the end of the day, right?
I
they
mean,
still
the
Tomo-chan one, right? That is a good example of that. They didn't if you read the subtitles, right? They're not the same as what she said in the dub, but it's effectively the same thing, right? It is effectively the exact same meaning and the exact same sentence almost in English. It's just in the Japanese it might be slightly different, right? And that's fine. Where you get into issues is when it's something that is completely fucking different to what was said in Japanese. The prison school example is prime, right? We always talk about the examples from Prison School and Funimation and Dragon Maid and all. So I don't really want to bring all those up again because there are more modern examples popping up now and then, especially more in video games these days, right? Where what is being said by the character in Japanese is completely fucking different to what they're saying in English. And to an extent, it's not even the same script, right? And that's where we have problems. That's the stuff that needs to get called out and the stuff that needs to be addressed within the industry as a whole, right? Is I don't want to... Okay, I got to stop myself because I'm just going to go into a massive rant about localization and how shit localization is and how the industry's bad. So I'm going to save everyone that because I could go on about that for an hour, right? But the point is, right, when we're talking about dubs versus subs, right, the issue of, and I think I said this in the chat when I was talking to you, I believe that the issue of quality of the directing and the acting is a separate issue to the quality of the localization, right?
Yeah,
I think you could dislike. I think you can dislike dubs for for both or one or the other. But I think when you're talking about what you don't like, you have to be specific about that because there's a massive difference in saying this sounds awkward because the directing is off or the sound booth is weird or there's actual qualitative issues with the acting, right? Versus they bastardized the original script. Because you could have a perfect dub, A-list actors, Hollywood actors even, right? Professionals that have been in the industry for 20 billion years or whatever.
Yeah.
They've been voice acting since they got pumped out of the womb, right? They are God. Their voices are God's gift to the world, right? and you have the best director directing them. Like, you have Steven Spielberg is directing the voice actor, or what? Like a Steven Spielberg level voice actor director is directing them, and you have it's the best. But the script is fucking horrifically butchered and terrible, and the worst fucking script they completely bastardized the original Japanese. They're not saying the same thing. It's almost like it's a completely different show, right? Like it's like Ghost Stories almost, right? Like it's a completely different show, right, than the original. That is those are two completely different criticisms, right? And it can be vice versa too. You could have 100% accurate. It's perfect. There's no discrepancies, so on and so forth. But the acting's terrible and whatnot. So that's why I think that these are like two completely separate issues that need to be kind of talked about in a separate manner. What do you think about that?
I just have the example in my head of Fire Emblem Three Houses, where I usually play those games in Japanese, and there is just sometimes these differences. What's the saying? Differences without a change, or change without a difference. Something to that effect. Basically, what it's translated at is the same thing, but worded very differently, and that strikes me like it's extra effort most of the time.
Right.
Perhaps translator gets paid by the words or something. I don't.
He's got to add more words so he gets paid more.
Yeah.
But yeah, no.
So, but then I play Japanese. I hear Japanese. And he says that. That's not what's written here. It's not what I hear. The difference, but it functionally is the same thing. It's just strange that it's different in that way. All right. Whatever, I'm going to continue, and then I listen to other, watch another playthrough, other choices, and then I hear the voices in English, and those sound fine. Those sound fine, completely fine.
Yeah.
I would, I have a preference for the Japanese because I like hearing the Japanese. It's secretly also an exercise in Japanese learning. So
true, that's true. Yeah.
So I picked Japanese more than not. Nier Automata I played in English because it was default and it's pretty good. Yeah, so in that game, both Japanese and English are basically of the same quality. I heard the English voice actor getting mad and surprised, and they were mad and surprised in the voice acting too. That's where the Japanese completely fine. So it's completely possible that good voice acting can come from anime games in this case. I showed earlier in the like 2 hours ago a thing about Xenoblade Chronicles 3 with very anime lines set in the correct tone and seriousness of the script that it should have, and it worked completely fine. And Xenoblade is a 10.
It's like I said. I think it comes down more to the directing and how the directors getting the actors to go on about it. But let's keep going because we're about to get into an interesting point.
Foreign concepts and rewrite them in a way that's easy to understand. Introducing entirely new lines that have nothing to do with the dialogue does neither of those things. This being something that puts people off of dubs, I completely understand, but localization can be and has been done well. What I find to be more important than the country of origin is the setting of the stories and creators' vision for the piece of media.
I want to comment that Haruhi section was that ultra high definition 60 FPS thing.
AI enhanced fucking.
Yeah. It looked terrible, but continue.
Yeah, let's.
Example, I mentioned before that ever since I picked up the Naruto sub, I never went back to the dub. Despite not being set in Japan, most characters in Naruto have Japanese names, and the story is heavily inspired by Japanese folklore, so the Japanese voices feel more appropriate. Conversely, Full Metal Alchemist is an anime that I watch dubbed. Given the Western setting and character names, it made more sense to me to constantly hear them saying Edward Elric instead of Eduardo Eroriku. Also, the official language of Amestris is English, so I found it to be more immersive. Something like Cowboy Bebop, I couldn't imagine watching subbed. Shinichiro Watanabe's work have very clear Western influence, and he's even said that he prefers the English dub himself. Or that's at least what everyone says. I've never actually found a source for that.
My source is that I made it the fuck up.
All right, so he's about to get into the setting thing.
It feels really ethno-state, though.
Okay. Would you like to elaborate on that one?
Everybody should be in their place. The world is a cube.
Everyone should be in their place.
What's the four-sided world?
You will speak the native tongue, or you will get whipped.
What's the cubism? What's the site again?
Ah, fuck.
You know what I mean, right?
I think I do.
The four sides of the world. The white.
Cube, like flat Earth, but it's like the cube
yeah,
world.
It's always the same time in four places at the same time.
Oh god. Okay. So that fucking curveball aside, this gets into what I was talking about with the Arknights example, right? Like, I agree, there is like an immersion element, right? Definitely, there's definitely, but the thing is immersion is like a subjective thing, because what's immersive to some people, it can be like completely like immersive to other people.
Yeah.
You know, so I feel like for him, it's like, yeah, okay, and I actually don't disagree. Like, I watched Fullmetal Alchemist dubbed because I grew up with it dubbed. And I watched it dubbed, and I probably would find it weird to watch it in Japanese, right? I think it's less for the immersion factor and more just because like that's
familiarity.
What I grew up with, right? Yeah, it's familiar, right? If I'd watched it in Japanese, I mean, I could probably still enjoy the dub, but you know, it would be a little bit different, right? I wouldn't have that same attachment, right? Which is a point that I think he kind of glossed over there. Is like, I feel like for a lot of those older dubs, there's like an attachment. I also would make the argument that a lot of the dubs back then were of higher quality. Not all of them, obviously. A lot of them were very bad. But like, I mean, Fullmetal Alchemist is always an example. Cowboy Bebop is also an example where it's like, no, they actually like the dub is really good, right? It's just quality, right? It's like you said, it's competently made, right? So while I can agree that yes, there is an immersion factor, and I would bring the Arknights example back up for that, where it's like, yeah, I like having the characters from certain regions have their own little regional dialects and their own like languages and their own stuff, because you know it's cool. It is a neat little thing, right? However, I don't necessarily think that it needs to be a hard and fast rule, which is what we're about to lead into.
Oh, it's not a hard and fast rule. It's a ironclad enforced rule that he wants.
Yeah, so let's let him make his point.
Setting is the main thing I consider when choosing which version to watch, but it's not a definitive rule. I still went with the sub for Attack on Titan because I found some of the English voices insufferable. Armin sounds 3 times his age, and Eren sounds like he's permanently clenching his teeth anytime he says something. There are some trash-ass dubs, you won't see me denying that, but I still think it's goofy to write off dubs wholesale. If you're gonna be a hater, at least take the time to experience what you're hating on to come up with some better reasons why you hate it. Shit, I'm being a hater right now. Be like me, a hater with extra steps. Japanese dubs have their own set of problems when an anime has non-Japanese characters. In Black Lagoon, there's a scene where 2 characters have a language barrier. This is Revi, she speaks English. This guy only speaks Japanese, and he's trying to beg for his life.
Give me what?
I cannot speak.
Quit yapping, you goofball. You're gonna give it to me one night. Come on. All we got left is to mop up the place.
Huh?
Wait a minute, I thought you can't speak Japanese.
Okay, so
the realities of casting.
Well, no, not just that, but like, okay, so if she speaks, here's the thing, right? If you didn't know that she's meant to be speaking English, right? because it's obviously a Japanese dub, right?
Yeah.
But they reversed it.
Yeah.
So she's speaking Japanese natively, and then she encounters a guy who can't speak Japanese and is speaking in English. Or something like that, right?
I do feel this is an adaptation thing.
Yeah, here's the thing. I get where he's coming from, right? It's like, yeah, there can be like this really weird issue when you have different characters speaking different languages. How do you actually show that in the actual dub? And this is not, I don't think this is a problem exclusive to Japanese or English either. I think this is like a general roadblock that you have to kind of overcome, right? Because, you know, if Revy is meant to be speaking,
English all the
perfect
time.
English, or English all the time, and then in this one section, she switches from Japanese to English to talk to this Japanese guy who can't speak English, right? Yeah, it's kind of weird, but I think any logical person can kind of understand what's going on, right? There was actually, I believe, I think it's in one of the Yakuza games, the newest one, I think, the one that's like Dragon Quest, right? There's a moment, there's like a gag in that where the character encounters like an English person in Japan who's like asking for directions, right?
Yeah.
And in the Japanese dub, they play it kind of straight, where it's like, yeah, you have the character speaking in English, and the other character, the main character, is like trying to help him in broken English, right? So you have the guy speaking perfect English or like in broken Japanese, and you have like it's the gag, right? It's the standard thing, right? In English though, because everyone's speaking English, right?
Yeah.
In this Japanese video game, they have this moment where the guy is I think he's speaking in like broken English / Japanese, and Ichigan or whoever he is who's like the main character, is like, oh, I see what's going on, and he literally looks at the camera and puts a thumbs up as like, it's like, so they completely changed the gag and the localization to be something completely different, to be like a nod to the fact that this is weird, right?
Yeah.
Because it's all in English. So they like acknowledge it, right? And it's on the nose. And I'm like, that's actually kind of cool. That's actually kind of clever. It's actually, you know, because it's like, it's a completely different joke, and you could argue, yeah, it's not the same as the Japanese script. It's like purist shit, right? But I don't know. I kind of liked it. I kind of thought that was like a little cool little nod, right? Where it's like, you're recognizing this as a problem, right? And then more recently, I watched Mushoku Tensei. And in that recent ep, you had an interesting kind of thing, which was like this, where you had two characters that were speaking in Japanese and not speaking in the fantasy language. And you had these like really weird moments where characters were like interchangeably speaking Japanese and the fantasy language, even though for the whole anime, they've been speaking the fantasy language, but it's been in Japanese because of the dub, right? But then in this moment, they have to emphasize the fact that there's a language barrier. So you have the characters speaking in Japanese with Japanese subtitles, and then the English subtitles on top of the Japanese subtitles.
Yeah, I
right?
mean, Crunchyroll has a very problem with typesetting in general.
Yeah, well, you get what I mean, right? But it's like, but I find it interesting. It was very interesting because you have to show that there's a language barrier, but how the fuck do you do that? I think Mushoku Tensei handled it quite well.
Because Mushoku Tensei really segmented it, right? It cut out.
Yeah. They were like, okay, here's them speaking fantasy tongue to emphasize the fact that they've been speaking fantasy tongue the whole time, and then here's like, now they're speaking in Japanese, and the third character in the room can't understand them speaking in Japanese.
And it's not. It says, "Hey, what are you saying? I don't understand."
Yeah. Until Rudy like specifically says, "Okay, let's start speaking in fantasy tongue again," right? Like that. Like he specifically, and that is not just for like the in-universe, right? That's also for the viewer, right? Because that's telling the viewer, "Oh, okay, they're now speaking in a language that everyone can understand now," right? So. Kind of important. right? Kind of important. I think they did the same thing in Assassination Classroom. I haven't watched Assassination Classroom in a long time, so I don't remember. I think they did.
I read a couple chapters and I watched.
I vaguely remember like because I think there's like the English teacher chick, who's like, I don't quite remember, but 100%. I don't remember 100%. But the point is like there are interesting ways to go about solving this problem. Right, and it's definitely an issue, but I don't know if it's like as big of a deal as what he's leading on. Is kind of where. So what do you think before you got any extra take, or am I good?
This Black Lagoon scene could have been better. Maybe they should have committed to having the guy speaking Korean or something.
That would have been interesting, yeah.
Just do an adaptation thing.
Yeah. All right. Well,
that's my take. If the problem was this was confusing and doesn't make sense, change it. Just go and do the different language.
Yeah,
Korean.
to me, it doesn't. It makes sense because I understand what's going on. Right, even if it's a little awkward, and I agree with you that it's not perfect, the point gets across that there's a language barrier, right? It's not, whether or not that language barrier is like English versus Japanese or whatever.
It's more
or Japanese versus English. It's like
whatever. I was thinking of clarity because you couldn't understand the English either.
That's the other problem too, yeah, because it's obvious that it's a Japanese VA trying to speak English.
Yeah, I want to mention that for funsies in Oppenheimer, the movie.
Oh yes.
Did you know that Oppenheimer studied or gave lessons in Utrecht for a while, in Leiden? In Leiden for a while. So there's a small scene wherein the Oppenheimer man speaks Dutch for a second. But the actor can't speak Dutch at all, so it's barely recognizable. It is her English in Dutch, or I think if you would speak Dutch right now, it would be like that.
If I tried to speak Dutch, it would be fucking horrific. Yeah.
That was a shame.
Because I know next to zero Dutch.
That was a shame to see that.
Yeah.
Hey, look, Dutchman in movie, you can't understand a single word of
You didn't get your sweet representation.
No, no representation today again.
No representation for you. But anyway, let's continue. We got like a third of the video left.
So. Oh dear.
She just goes from broken English to fluent Japanese. Vinland Saga is filled with scenes like this. Here's Thorfinn, who speaks Old Norse, telling an Englishwoman that he can't understand his language because he doesn't speak English, while they're both speaking in Japanese. I want you to look me in the eyes and tell me that Japanese is the ideal way to experience this story. Personally, I think that in a perfect world, there would be no dubbing.
In a manga,
but here's the thing. Here's the thing. You'd have the same problem in English. If they were all speaking English, it would be the same.
Yeah, there's no
like you can't expect it's like oh, are you going to like hire someone that knows how to speak Old Norse? Because here's the thing, I guarantee you, if they had tried to force the Japanese actor to speak Old Norse, it's going to sound fucking horrific. Just like the guy Oppenheimer trying to speak Dutch, it's going to sound horrific, right? It's like. It's just going to create a whole new fucking problem.
Where do you find somebody who speaks Old Norse or Old English also? Because the English today wasn't the English then. So
ye old the yai van ye blah. It's going to create like a whole new fucking problem, right?
Are we going to enforce that every language should be accurate to the time period it was spoken in?
It's like this. It's like the old. What's the old? Fuck. I can't remember what like the exact moral story or whatever. But it's like oh, you have a problem with mice, so the way that you solve the problem is you unleash a whole bunch of snakes. But now you have a snake problem, so now you need to hire a whole bunch of elephants to kill all the snakes. But now all the elephants are rampaging around, and you need to, and it just, you're solving problems by creating more problems, right? You're not actually solving the problem, right? And it's like, I can agree. It would be really cool, right, if the characters were speaking in Old Norse. Like, I agree. That's why I fucking like Arknights. But at the same time, it's like, I can't expect that. It's... anyway, it's...
For different demographics, every character would be voiced in their canonical spoken language. You're making a game based in ancient Greece? Doesn't matter if your target audience speaks Swahili, dub it in Greek. Oh, you're making a show set in a fictional land with a made-up language?
Yeah, ancient Greek,
then all your characters should be dubbed in a made-up language, and everybody gotta read subtitles. Whatever best suits that piece of...
See, I don't... It's just not feasible. It's just not fucking feasible.
He contradicts himself here, that the language that is used in the work should be what's most appropriate for the work is not the same as the... canonical, accurate, representative language that's it's supposed to be where they're from or where it's set in.
Yeah, it's like, again, it's like I would love it if we lived in a fucking fantasy utopia where you could do this, but it's like there are only like there are very few situations where I think you could do something like this and have it be both cost effective and practical. Like Arknights obviously is an exception to the rule, which is why I bring it up, right? It's almost like it's the exception that makes the rule. Because, yeah, you can do it, but it's probably costing them a lot of money to do it, and it's a lot of extra work to do it, and they can probably only do it because they have the financial backing of being a gacha game that makes money the way that it does, right? So
yeah, but even something like Mushoku Tensei that's set in fantasy with fantasy languages.
Yeah.
Having them speak in fantasy language doesn't help with the bringing the delivery of the lines, delivery of the emotions of the characters.
Is it actually? Because in Arknights, obviously the only lines that are being spoken are usually just quips, right? It's not like in the dialogue, because the dialogue, it's a virtual novel, basically. They don't speak in the actual dialogue in the
it's
game.
like Fire Emblem, like some quips at sometimes.
Yeah, you'll have them say, Code Dio, or whatever, when they get deployed or something, right?
Yeah.
Well, they'll have some, like, little line when you tap them as an adjacent or something, right? Like, you'll tap them and they'll say, like, a little diatribe or something, right? Those are voiced, right? But it's not like the whole game is voiced, because that would be fucking ridiculous. Can you imagine how much fucking work that would be? And then again, that's why I say it's an exception to the rule.
I'm far more hung up on the fact that he wants that it wants at the same time that the work is using a language that's best suited for the work, and for the work to always be in the language to always match the setting where it's at. Those things aren't compatible.
Yeah, exactly. And again, it's like, do you actually gain anything from Mushoku Tensei being delivered in completely fantasy tongue? Like, do you actually gain anything? Like, would it actually enhance the experience?
Nah, you lose the emotional delivery of the actors who can.
Yeah, like would it actually enhance the experience? I don't think it would. So let's continue.
Media should be the version produced. Some Japanese game companies have had this figured out for a minute now. Despite being based in Japan, Capcom has games like Resident Evil and Devil May Cry where the English dub is heavily prioritized. The recent
because it's a lot easier to do a prioritized English dub than it is to do a fucking ancient Greek dub. Okay? Like, you can do, like, it's not gonna, like, it doesn't cost Capcom a whole lot of money to prioritize doing an English dub, because they're gonna have to do an English dub anyway, right? Why not do the English dub?
Let's have them speak the Proto-Indo language. The Proto-Indo-European language.
Yeah, like 650 in the chat. He's like, he's not being reasonable. That's the problem. He's not being reasonable, right? Like, it is reasonable when it's like, oh yeah, it's English, because let's be honest here. English is like one of the big dominating languages in the world.
lingua
Like
franca.
a lot of people. It's one of them, right? I mean, it's not the most, like, I think Spanish is more dominant, specifically because of, you know, South American countries and the like, right? You know, and there's other languages that do top English in terms of how many people actually speak it, right? But English is one of the most dominant languages in the world, right? So obviously it's going to be a lot easier for a company like Capcom to prioritize a English dub over a Japanese dub, for example, despite being a Japanese company, right? Versus, I don't know, like some small indie team in the middle of, I don't know, bumfuck nowhere, who is like, you know, like they're not going to be able to, are you going to be able to afford, like, I'm going to use the ancient Greek example again, you're going to be able to afford to pay a highly specialized voice actor who speaks ancient Greek to voice your ancient Greek character?
Yeah, everybody in Assassin's Creed Odyssey should speak ancient Greek. All of them.
Everyone in Assassin's Creed.
Find 50 people who can speak in ancient Greek and are voice actors.
Yeah. It's like, it's not reasonable. I don't think it's reasonable at all. But anyway.
Final Fantasy XVI is lip-synced to the English voices rather than the Japanese. From Software didn't even produce Japanese dubs for any of the Souls games. Given the medieval fantasy setting,
and I hate to pause right after we unpause, but one of the things with this is, like, I don't like how he's removing creative choice from the equation, because all of these things are creative choices. They're doing this as a creative choice. Like, FromSoft wanting to do English VA instead of Japanese VA in the Souls games because of the setting and whatnot, like, that's a creative choice.
I believe
obviously
Bayonetta was also English only, right? Because Kamiya thought that the witches being English was a more natural thing.
Made more sense. Yeah, I don't recall. I'd have to look. But yeah, like, obviously, like, I mean, I made the point just before, and I don't want to contradict myself, that yeah, there's a factor of financial and resources, right? Especially when we're talking about niche fucking languages like ancient Greek and stuff, right? But when we're talking about English, right? It's like, if they want to make English the primary language of the setting of the game, right, in Final Fantasy or Dark Souls, then that is a AI is here to save the day. Yeah, I see you there. Like, I feel like, God, you threw me off with that. Holy shit. I feel like if that's the creative decision they want to make, that's the creative decision they want to make. But if they wanted to make it Japanese voice acting, then I don't see the problem. Don't, you know, yeah. It's, you know, it's, yeah,
I think Mushoku Tensei did it well, and Black Lagoon could have done it if they changed the you know, the English Japanese guy to Korean or the German or whatever.
Yeah, or something else that's a bit makes sense. But anyway,
English better fits the creator's artistic vision for the games.
Oh yeah,
all of these titles have phenomenal voice work. I ain't never met somebody who said, actually, I would prefer to play the Japanese game Dark Souls with Japanese voices, but if I did. It has nothing to do with Japanese things inherently being better in Japanese, and everything to do with anime tropes and aesthetics specifically feeling all the more unnatural in English. The more anime an anime is, the more likely it is people are going to bounce off the English dub. There's a reason you recommend your friends FMA or Death Note as a gateway anime, as opposed to something like K-On!
You're not going to recommend K-On! As a gateway anime?
I don't know. I mean, anime doesn't need gateways anymore.
I don't think so either. Yeah, like I think we're kind of gone past the point where you're gonna recommend somebody like Fullmetal Alchemist. Like, are you really gonna use Fullmetal Alchemist as the example now and Death Note? Like, we're talking about animes that came out fucking decades ago.
Yeah,
now.
maybe today it will be Attack on Titan or something, right?
Yeah, well, even then, it's like, I don't even, like, I just don't, I don't know. I don't know if you'd really need to do that anymore. I don't think you do. I think
no.
The bigger problem is finding anime because anime is such a diverse genre. I think the problem and the trap that a lot of people fall into when recommending anime, at least even back in the day, right? When we were recommending people to watch Fullmetal Alchemists and Death Notes and stuff, right? Is because anime is so diverse, they can watch those animes, but then that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to go on to another anime and like it. They could go on to something and then it would be completely different. Because you've got K-On! As an example, right? There are other shows out there like K-On!, right? But then that person is only going to watch other shows like K-On!, right? They're not going to watch other anime, right?
Yeah,
because if you like K-On!, you're going to watch other things that are like K-On!, and then maybe you'll branch out every now and then, right?
There was a problem with the Harry Potter boom, right? Harry Potter was big popular, and then there was this hope I read later, of course, that would mean that book reading was on the rise again. But no, people just liked Harry Potter and wanted more Harry Potter.
They just liked the movie and the aesthetics and the stuff, right? Yeah. So, but the thing with anime, is it's like, it's fine to just watch what you want to watch, but I think if you're trying to get someone into anime as a medium, right? Not as like, oh, you should watch anime because I like anime and this is an example of an anime, right? I think it's a much better idea to just let people kind of naturally let the sticks fall where they land, almost, right? Because some people might just like Mecha. Some people might just like slice of life.
To summarize this part, you can just recommend what you like these days.
Yeah, just recommend what you like, and if that person doesn't like what you like, then alright.
Something. Do you have something different? I liked, I wanted something more specific like this. Well, 10,000 animes. Pick what you want.
Yeah, exactly. I think the idea of gateway anime is kind of skewed because a lot of us, I would say, Cardcaptor Sakura, watching that on TV.
The Naruto.
Yeah, watching these things on TV. That was our gateway animes, right? However, that I don't think that's as big of a thing. I think someone just is going to like an anime. They're going to stumble across an anime and they're just going to like it. Because nowadays you can just watch it online now. You're not restricted to just watching TV and having the cool, flashy thing show up on TV and then you get interested, So, I don't know. I'm kind of all over the place on this point. I'd probably have to think about it a bit more. I got to compartmentalize it, but yeah, I have this issue with a lot of how modern anime recommendations occur, because I don't think it takes into account people's personal tastes, in a sense. Because it's like, yeah, you could recommend them good anime, quote unquote, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to like it and go off and watch like 20 billion other shows, right? So it's like, I think it's a very few minority select group of people that are autistic like us that actually like anime as a medium, right? Rather than individual shows.
Well, I'd like to read academic papers on anime.
I think that like the vast majority of people they like individual shows, but they don't actually like anime. If that makes sense.
Even Marvel stuff, right? People were Marvel fans until Marvel made bad movies, and they suddenly weren't Marvel fans. They were fans of these Marvel movies.
So, I think that's where I'm not going to go too far into this, but I think that's where you get a lot of the stuff from the Zoomies, where they are like, ooh, all of these gross anime tropes stuff, but they still like play Danganronpa. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, there are 1,000 animes. They'll find something they like. Don't worry.
yeah. But anyway, let's continue.
These games are very anime, so you don't see nearly as many people complaining about the voice acting. Since FromSoft released the Souls games with only English, it's safe to assume that their 2019 game, based in Sengoku period Japan, only had Japanese audio. Nah, that shit had 6 different language options, but it did default to the Japanese, and it gave players this little message saying, the game is Japanese, please play the game in Japanese. Because God forbid you release a game in the West without English voices. Just like how there are anime fans who refuse to watch dubs.
So is he suggesting that they should just not release an English dub for the Japanese?
Yeah, it kind of goes
force
like
everyone to fucking play the game in Japanese.
It feels like he wants to force that on other people.
I don't think that's his intent, but that's what's coming across.
Well, that's what he wanted, right? He wants that everything has to be in the language where it's set in. He kind of, I feel
I
also
feel like comparing like Dark Souls to like an anime dub is a false equivalence.
Yeah, but to ignore that, he kind of laments that you have to include English.
Yeah, you have to release an English dub.
Otherwise, they would have played it all. So, alright.
Yeah.
This time it's okay.
I mean, it's just at the end of the day, it's just adding accessibility option.
Yeah, I do know that streamers like doing English voices because then people can put it on, in another...
Yeah, you can put it on in the background and not have to listen. Yeah, you don't have to read. Yeah. But anyway, we're almost done, guys. We're almost there.
There are people who won't consume anything that requires subtitles. My running theory is that they're all illiterate.
Read, nigga, read!
But they're still not as nearly as annoying as the subbed anime crowd. Most of them just want to be able to understand what's being said without having to be distracted by text at the bottom of the screen, which is a decent enough reason. But even that is a sentiment that I've been hearing less and less. With the insane popularity achieved by shows like Squid Game and the film Parasite, more people have become open to the idea of watching foreign media. They realized, you know what? Maybe I can read faster than 15 words per minute, and that's pretty cool. It's in stark contrast to the level of closed-mindedness that you see from alleged cultured individuals. There's definitely a middle ground to be reached between avoiding all subtitles and worshipping everything Japanese. Language can have a profound effect on how you experience media, and you'd be doing yourself a disservice by limiting yourself to just one. It's okay to have a preference, just try not to base that preference on bullshit. And remember, trying to push your own preferences onto someone else's doesn't make you cool. It just
ironic.
Yeah.
Lets everyone know you have an unwashed ass. That's it for this video. See y'all in the next one.
Ironic. Did you like that irony?
Advocating for the ethno-state languages.
Yeah, advocating the anime watching ethno-state. So anyway, okay, so final thoughts. I don't think the video itself was fine quality wise. I guess it was okay. I just don't like. I think the way that I would summarize this is I can agree with his assessment, not his conclusion. I agree with the assessment, just not a lot of the conclusions that he's come up with. And also, I don't agree with some of the other parts, like the whole soft power bit was really weird.
Completely
that whole section that whole section was irrelevant to me. I feel I don't think soft power has a lot to do with people's dub versus sub preferences somehow.
So
anyway,
I'm going to be a little bit more critical in that there wasn't really anything in the video, as a whole that would stand up to me, or no, not stand up to me. I would agree with, because the premise is that it's not the dubs that are the thing that holds. It's not the dubs that are the problem. It's the scripts that's the problem, and we disagree with that. Then there's this soft power bit, which is irrelevant. Then he advocates that every language should just be in the language in where it's set in. There was some other part in between.
Yeah. There's a lot that I agree with you on that. I agree with you on all that.
I mean, it's all very it wasn't infuriatingly terribly argued, but it wasn't just convincing arguments.
Yeah, I just disagree. Basically, but I agree with you though. I agree. But like when I'm talking about I mean, it was pretty good editing. It was all right.
Some odd choices. Okay. Cool Japan. Look, idols are cool.
Yeah. Some odd choices. Yeah, some odd choices in there, but that's like,
standard actually.
We pointed it out. Yeah, we pointed it out. But I do agree with you in terms of the points. I think that the soft power thing was weird. I don't agree that the problem is the Japanese script. I'm firm in my stance that it is the directing and possibly the acting, depending on how the cookie crumbles, right? But I think that acting can sometimes be a very downstream from directing kind of deal.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you have a bad actor, they're not going to do well regardless. But you can have a good actor, and there have been movies, for example, where you have like good actors that are known to be good actors, but their performances are lackluster because they weren't directed properly. Right.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where
actors can only see and do what's right in front of them. They can't tell what green screen stuff is going to happen.
They can only do so much, right? They can only do so much. So I feel like he's missed the mark. And I think that there was a missed opportunity to talk about that. Because it actually would have probably helped his point, right? A lot more. But anyway, I guess we're done. I guess we did it.
Yeah.
We got through the whole video. It only took us like 4 hours, but we
3 hours and 3/4.
This is why I've been like, because we haven't done a whole lot of content lately, and a lot of it is just because of like time investment. Because it's like everyone's pumping out these 20-minute fucking videos, and I know it's gonna take us like 4 hours to cover them. And I know I shouldn't be as picky about that, and we should
20
probably
minutes
just bite the bullet.
10 minutes or so.
Yeah, we got to bite the bullet a bit more and just like commit to doing some fucking hardcore sessions like this. And I mean, if we're gonna start doing live streams more, it might make it a little easier because then you don't have to edit anything.
Yeah.
Around. It might make things a little easier.
I might brush up on scene switching skills and whatnot.
Yeah, and we can.
You can do a new Fugi.
I might have to look into doing that. Yeah,
I'll fix her mouth a little bit more.
yeah. I might have to work on that. But anyhow, it's been good. It's been good chilling. We've been chilling. We've been chilling. But yeah, I guess we'll catch you guys in the next one. We don't know when the next one's gonna be, because these are all usually very impromptu whenever the hell we feel like
within the week. We'll usually plan.
Yeah, within the week we'll usually plan one out, and maybe I'll have to kick Ellie to post like a fucking announcement on YouTube or something. I don't know how any of that shit.
You only get community things when you have like 1,000 subs or something.
Yeah, that's right. Oh well, whatever. Just subscribe to the channel, favorite, and subscribe, and keep an eye out for our next videos, streams, and we'll catch you guys all next time. Catch us in 4 months. Yeah, you'll see us in 4 months.
That is our schedule. Yeah, but
that
anyway,
is right now. It is, yeah, right.
I do appreciate that you 6-0 always has been in live streams always. Big thanks for being you there. I don't know if you've always been in the live streams, but always fun to have somebody to talk to at least.
It is. It's so weird. We got our pal 650. We got Samu. Yeah, it's always fun. But it's funny because I remember back in the day we were doing every
week.
We were doing we were recording a lot, but we would Yeah, it would be like, it would release weekly or bi-weekly, but we would record like 3 or 4 episodes in a week, and then we would just like stagnate it. But then what ended up happening was life happened for all of us, and so
Work
we kind of got a little bit distracted. Yeah, work and other things.
Buying a house.
Yeah, a whole bunch of shit. But we don't have to get into any of that. Maybe we'll do like a chill stream sometime where we just talk the shit and don't do an episode. We'll just do like chill streams. Yeah. But anyway, end of the episode. Catch you guys next time.
Sooner than 4 months.
Sooner than 4 months, yeah. #soon TM. Later.
Later.